You're the point guard this time. You go. I just pitched the ball to you after the backcourt.
I thought we were playing positionless. Okay, so welcome to our stream tonight. Hopefully you guys have heard we're doing a fundraiser tonight. We're calling it Burn the Boats versus Cancer. Recently in the news, the Spoelstras, their young sons battled childhood cancer and won, obviously. So we're happy about that. So we're raising some money. We've already put together a fundraiser. That information is on the chat, and so you guys can go into the chat. You can get that information, and we've already raised almost $800. So I'm going to flip it over to Ethan. I have a little bit of a mic issue apparently, so I'm going to get that fixed and let him open us up.
All right, so we want you guys to donate to the super chat. As Sean said, everything tonight is going to this charity. So nothing's staying with us. Everything is going to the charity. We've got a ton of guests that are coming in. We've got Tony Schwartz, who's here right now. Alex Toledo, who you know from 5 on the Floor. We're going to be bringing in, I'm a little low right now myself. We're going to be bringing in a whole bunch of others, including Giancarlo Navas and Alphonse Sidney, our old friends from Miami Heat Beat. We've got Alana, who's coming in here as well. We got the coach, Tony Fiorentino, who's coming in here too. So I know I've missed some people. Let me go through the list here a little bit. Brian Fonseca, Gad Cartagena, Brady Hawk will be on later in the episode, and the great Dos Minutos, and also Timothy Bain. So we got a bunch of stuff. Sean has kind of set up the program tonight. But again, the important thing is that you guys donate, okay? So we're going to be here for probably around an hour, maybe a little bit more, but we do want to send all the donations to charity. We will make sure that we get to every question that is asked with a donation. So if you hit the donation button, we will absolutely get to the question. We've raised, what have we raised? More than $700. Sean set this thing up. More than $700 already, and we want to add to that tonight. So that's the direction we're going to go. Sean, I know we wanted to start here as we go forward with some content by kind of building off the latest 5 on the Floor. For those who didn't hear it, essentially, here's where it is. The Miami Heat are making it clear that they are not uncomfortable with their current roster. They like it. They're okay going into the season with it. Obviously, they would like to fortify it, but that their decision, to go after a Kevin Durant in particular is based on the opportunity to get a generational player, and that you have to stay in the game for that. It does not mean, and according to them at least, that they do not like the roster. They're, of course, aware that the starting power forward position is in flux. No PJ Tucker. They wanted to re-sign PJ Tucker. They didn't want to be hard capped by re-signing PJ Tucker, which is the reason that didn't ultimately play out. But they are comfortable, they say, playing a different way, whether it's with Caleb Martin at the 4, perhaps Omer Yurtseven at the 5 and Bam at the 4, which is something that's been discussed. Perhaps playing Jimmy Butler more at the 4, getting Victor Oladipo on the floor more. The other thing we reported on 5 on the Floor is that Tyler Hero, while there's a lot in flux with him right now, obviously a trade possibility, the extension, which they have not agreed to the exact number yet, although they're in the ballpark. But the one thing that is likely going to happen is if he stays, he will start, that he's going to get the opportunity to start, which is what he wants. So Alex and I we went back and forth on it on the podcast. I'll go to you first, I guess. Tony, your thoughts on all of that and the rest of what was said on the app.
Well, the easiest thing to deal with there is Tyler starting, right? They're clearly tilting the roster a little bit more towards offense. So we have to have some shot creation on the floor at all times. You need Tyler out there. But what happens with Vic in that scenario? Like, is he bottomed into that 6-man role? Does he start to push Tyler a little bit in camp or at some point during the season? The roster construction and them liking the team isn't crazy to me. It's the team that got them to the first seed in the East for the most part. You lose PJ Tucker, but all those guys were huge components to getting there. So, of course, they like the guys. They like the team, I'm sure. But there's still a huge defensive hole in the 4 position. So until that gets filled, I have to be a touch critical just about where they're at right now as far as construction goes. But I'll tell you this. When it gets closer to deadline, guys, the rosters or the salary that they have added to the roster, we have a lot more pieces, a lot more flexibility to play with. I think as long as, and this has to be the team's perspective too, as long as they're competing come deadline for home court advantage, they're somewhere in that 1 to 5, that 1 to 6 range in striking distance of 4-3-2. As long as they're there and they can make a play at the deadline to put the team in a position to compete for a championship, we're not out of the woods yet. The whole idea of running it back means we've automatically lost the season is nonsense to me.
Sean, yeah, I mean, I think that's where a lot of people are going here is, one thing we talked about, more of a tilt towards offense, which they recognize. They talked about we had struggled to score at the end of the season. I know that fans look at this and say, well, they have to say this stuff because so far they haven't done anything to upgrade the roster. They did look at the free agent list over and over and over, seeing if some name looked better than them 3 days later than it did at the beginning, and nobody did. And that's why they re-signed Caleb Martin. I don't know that you can really have a fine fault with the strategy in a free agent year like this. It just might be the outcome people don't ultimately like when the season starts.
Yeah, I think we've made this point a couple of times. Like, the market is kind of stuck with this Durant thing. So while we're still having our line in the water, like nothing else has happened. We haven't really missed out on anything. Like Jeremy Grant, like what are we missing on? So, all those guys that we've talked about that we're quote unquote desiring to have, they're still there if they want to go that route. And, I think you guys made a good point. Like that episode was awesome. I think we do good content, but like that episode opens up with Ethan, like prime ISO Joe, like everybody cleared out. Ethan just like went after it. Alex and Greg were in the corners.
I'm as slow in the lane. I'm just kind of backing people down at this point.
Brady was like clapping his hands, calling for the ball, but like it was just ISO time, And then like when you guys got to the episode, I think the back and forth conversation was great. Like everybody added something. And, I think Brady makes a good point about the potential of Jimmy playing that spot. First of all, there's not a lot of big starting lineups where you have two bigs that you're like, who can Jimmy guard? And the fact that we switch everything so much, half the time Jimmy's not going to end up on that big guy that's playing to his back to the basket. So, I think obviously we talked about this a lot last year. Having options is a key thing. You have options that are there. They might not be all great options, but I think the flexibility that Spo has, and obviously he's also a great puzzle putter. Like he can put puzzles together. He can put those pieces together and make it work somehow, some way. And you give him this whole summer to figure it out. If they're okay with the roster, like you guys are reporting, I think I trust it.
And Alex, one of the things we got into there, again, when we talked about who could play the four, was also sort of how these roles would fit with Tyler starting, which is different. Because you're not talking about someone who is purely a floor spacer, even if he did shoot 40% from three during the regular season, but obviously needs the ball in his hands a lot. And we talk about where Vic is going to stand. I mean, I think Vic as a six man is fine. Like to me, he can play on and off the ball, provided again he's healthy and he's in rhythm. We know he's going to defend. He can run that bench unit as long as he's comfortable doing that. I mean, and I don't know why he wouldn't be. I mean, I would put money on him for six man of the year, just like I did on Tyler Hero, honestly. If he was healthy. But to me, the bigger issue is the fit with Tyler in the starting lineup. So you got into this on 5 on the Floor, but just get into that a little bit more.
So, I mean, I think, and like I said on 5 on the Floor and on other shows, I think it's going to be a training camp competition for Tyler, but it is fair to say that he's probably the favorite going in to win that starting spot at this moment. I mean, I don't know if that's just because of where, us as Heat observers stand and we've kind of talked ourselves into it, or because we've heard Tyler talk that way after the season. If it seems like the next step up after, doing this 1 year of being the guy who runs the show off the bench and comes in and plays starters minutes. He won 6 man in his first year of doing that. And I think now he's kind of expecting that promotion. And I think it's kind of the most likely outcome. But I wouldn't be surprised if, Max ended up winning it, not expecting Victor to win it. But if he did, that would be a great sign for his progress, of course. But just with Tyler being in the starting lineup in that scenario, I think, like I said on the show, they can be more dynamic with their playbook, and even a lot of the same stuff that they run becomes more dynamic naturally because Tyler can do more things off the catch, coming off of curls, coming off of handoffs than, for example, a Duncan or a Max can. So I think that's the type of thing where I could easily picture Bam and Jimmy and Kyle kind of deferring a little bit offensively to Tyler throughout the regular season, where he's just getting those reps and figuring out all the different ways that he can attack, whether it's off the ball or on the ball, right? And I think there's going to be plenty of times where he's not going to be playing with those guys, let's say, even if he does start. And that's when he'll really get back to kind of what he was doing as a 6-man, where, running pick and roll, kind of being the main scoring option on the ball. So I think it's going to be a good year for him to kind of step it up and show that he can really be a threat on and off ball. We know that he's an elite catch and shooter from 3. So I just think that's kind of the natural progression for Tyler at this point. And in the starting lineup, I don't really know who's going to start. I think the way it stands right now, they will be small if they just, didn't make any other trades at this point. And that's something to worry about for the playoffs, but they can get through the season with it. I think the only way they wouldn't be small is if, some of what people want, starting Omer or Dedmon next to Bam, or maybe you start Jovic. I don't think that's gonna happen. Hey,
I don't think that's happening.
hey, he can shoot. He can shoot.
Yeah,
no, But I'm expecting them to go small right now, and so I think Tyler's just gonna have. It's gonna be a small lineup no matter who's in there.
All right.
If it's actually, go ahead.
But Tony, I think we want to pivot a little bit because we got some people waiting backstage. Also, the comments. Anybody wants us to read any comments? Remember, we're donating everything tonight. Everything that comes in on the comments to Nicklaus Children's Hospital, and so make sure that you get those in there. We'll make sure we read the comments before the end of the show at some point. Sean, you want to bring some folks in here with Manny?
Yeah, we should have coaches backstage, so we should be ready for him, and I believe Alana should be here soon also. So whenever Manny wants to put them on stage, there we go.
Oh, look who it
is.
Wait, you got to do this, though. Well, Alana, you can show us your ring later. I know there isn't one. Tony. Sorry.
Now everyone's going to think you're slighting me. Really.
Good to see you. Tony, show us the ring. Come on.
I don't have it on.
No.
I had it on all day at camp for the kids.
So
did you let them take it? Did you let them touch it?
Tomorrow I'm going to wear I wear the 13 ring a lot, the back-to-back. Tomorrow I'm going to wear the 06 and the 13 ring so they can take pictures. And
what do the Sacramento Kings camp directors wear? I can't imagine they could come up with much in their closet.
I know, but I'll tell you what, if you walked into the arena tomorrow at camp and you saw the banners hanging all the way, practically on the court with Wade and all those banners, that retired, their uniforms. And then you got the championship banners with the 6 Eastern Conference championships over there. It's a beautiful sight, and the kids are playing on a court where he won 3 championships. Dwayne Wade formed a Hall of Fame career. I mean, what can be better than that? And the kids, they're loving every minute of it.
All right. Speaking of kids, this is a charity event here. So if people have questions for Tony, either Tony, Schwartz, or Fiorentino, throw them in here in the chat. We'll make sure that they get answered because I see people commenting on there. But we need the donations tonight. By the way. Yeah.
Well, Ethan, it's interesting that we're on with this because we had a kid in camp for the last 2-3 weeks. He was 2.5 years old when he was diagnosed that he needed a bone marrow operation. They gave him a 10% chance of survival. And he went to Nicklaus Hospital. And I talked to the parents all last week. His name is Axel Johnson. And we had, it was just interesting that last week, we always give out different awards. We had the Perseverance Award in the camp among 165 kids. And who better to get the award than a young man who had a 10% chance to live. He fought it for 5.5 years. Now he's a healthy 10, 11-year-old, just loves basketball, smart kid, answers questions right away. I just love the kid, love the story. And if anybody doesn't, is not attached to it emotionally, I got emotional when I introduced him last week to win the award. And, and Jack Nicklaus and Barbara Nicklaus, his wife, are big Heat fans. That hospital has done amazing things. It really has.
All right. And we want to make sure we get the donations tonight. So let's throw in the questions. Manny, you got a couple. And we're obviously going to get Alana in here. The best one first. Aiden, are the Heat going to offer Bam? Should I take that one? I mean, look, there are only, the way it was put to me was there were about 5 to 10 players in the league that might not be on the table for somebody like a Kevin Durant. That's basically the deal. Does it mean you want to trade Bam Adebayo? No. Is he important to you? Yes. Is he considered an anchor to the franchise going forward? Absolutely. But negotiations are negotiations. The Nets have got to get value. The problem, of course, with Bam is you can't have Bam and Ben Simmons on the same team because their contracts cannot be on the same team because of the types of deals that they sign. So that makes it even more complicated. But I know that the Miami Heat's intention is to keep Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo together. And, the Nets may hold Kevin Durant until the season. And I think the Heat are prepared for that. Other teams are prepared for that. So this is described to me as a big game of chicken. There's a lot of teams that are going to be asked to put a lot of things in at the end if you want to get a player like Kevin Durant. So that's kind of the best way that I can put it. Do you want to go? Let's get some questions.
The donation link because people are asking in there how to donate.
Yeah, let's
We
do.
appreciate the super chats, by the way, but you guys should redirect that money to Nicklaus.
Right to donations.
Yeah, direct to donations. We'll take that also. You want to throw that in there, Manny, here on the bottom? Could we get that link in there as well so that the people can see that one? And then we'll get to some of the super chats. Alana, I want to go to you on this, and then we'll bring Tony back in. This offseason has been described as the worst offseason in NBA, the least interesting offseason in NBA history, because Kevin Durant basically froze it. It's fair, right?
I mean, are we surprised? Everyone knows my feelings on KD. Great player, but this man is like the king of seeking attention. So I don't know. It's been boring, but at the same time, like, I'm not surprised that it's him holding everyone up. So I'm fine with them running it back if that's what they believe in. You know me, I'm not one of those crazy Heat Twitter fanatics. So it's been slow, but I do think that at some point something's got to give.
All right, let's get to some more of these. Again, do we get the donation link up there? I haven't seen it yet.
We just went over 850, so we just got a couple of donations, so that's good.
Okay, so
Coach, obviously good to see you.
Hey,
Appreciate
what's
you
up,
coming
Sean?
on. I was nervous you were going to tell a story about you kicking me out of camp when I was in middle school at Heat Camp, but
I almost did. Yeah, I almost did. He was with a bunch of boys. He was very impressionable. One of the kids threw a sneaker at somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean came very close. It's a good thing I knew your mom, Sean.
I appreciate that. I've tried to mature a little bit since then. But,
you've been great. You've been great.
Tony,
you know what?
I just want to ask Tony one thing about the camps before I go forward, because I know you have a lot of players come through the camps. I've been to a lot of them that go. Give me, you don't have to tell me who, the bottom end. Who was the most enthusiastic player you've ever had at one of those camps?
Well, they've all been great. What's interesting is, and Michael Lissack does an unbelievable job getting us a player every week. It's not easy to do in the off season because guys are on vacation pretty much, and they're in and out of Miami. But I thought it was interesting because it makes my job easier in the camp to explain things to kids. We've had 7 weeks of camp now. We're in our 7th week, 7 straight weeks of camp. There's our 5th week at the arena. And the players that we've had this year are Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Caleb Martin, Max Strus, and Udonis Haslem. We had Glenn Rice up in Deerfield Beach. He took the picture with the kids. They take pictures with the kids and they give autographs. And UD's going to be here twice. What do all those guys have in common? Not taking Glenn Rice out of the picture.
All undrafted.
All undrafted. Very good, Ethan. All undrafted. And we always keep talking to the kids about perseverance and you just got to work hard to get where you want to go. If you want to be an NBA player, keep that dream alive. Have a backup. And then we tell them the other things that you can be if you don't make the NBA. You could be the team trainer. You could be a coach, an announcer like the jobs that I've had with Heat. I've worn about 6 different hats since I've been here, 34 years. And so we tell the kids all these things. And these guys come in and they're great, and I bring it up to them. Recently we had Max Strus in camp and he ate that up, where he was in a Division II school and then Duncan was at a Division III school and look how they made it. So it's been a really exciting summer for the kids and for us having 5 weeks at the arena.
Crazy stat from last year that we unearthed at one point was until Victor Oladipo played, the Heat were the only team in the league that didn't have a top 11 pick, because Indiana had the 11th pick that had played to that point in the season. Then Vic screwed it up by playing because he was the number 2
second pick. Yeah,
he was the number 2 overall pick. I do want to get to one more thing on Tony, and then again pivot a little bit, but just about talking about free agency in general, and not this particular free agent season, but just generally, it seems to me like, and I'm curious for your perspective on this, fans are more interested in the transaction season than the game season these days. Is that fair? Do you notice that?
I think it's more in football, but I think that's the world we live in now. Social media, everything's 2 seconds away. I remember when we had the camp back in 14. The summer of 14, I'm ready to finish the camp, and the kids come in and say, LeBron left. They knew before I did. They all had phones. I was busy. I didn't have a chance to go to, but they all knew. You know, they all came in and said LeBron left. And my only comment to them, with all the parents being there ready to pick the kids up, I said, let me tell you something. I have a lot of respect for LeBron. He did a great job the 4 years here. But it's more important that Mickey Harrison and Pat Riley stay and LeBron leave than the other way around. And it proved, hey, that was an easy one to say.
I think they might have known LeBron left before a lot of other people do. LeBron left, unfortunately.
Officially. Well, the kids, you know. The kids.
Well, the kids
I know
always
what you're
know.
Talking about.
That's kind of how this works. All right, Sean pivoted. By the way, the donation link is in our chat. So if you go to our chat, you can do that. And obviously, we'll get to the super chats. Sean, take it away.
Yeah, you know, obviously we're talking about the Spoelstras here, and you're someone that has seen his rise from the film room all the way up to being a Hall of Fame coach now. What have you seen from your perspective, you know, kind of his growth as, you know, different roles through the Heat organization and where he's at now?
Well, it's a good story about that, Sean. When Pat Riley first came, one of the questions he asked me, having been here for 7 years and being on the staff for 7 years, was about Spoelstra. And he said, do we have a video coordinator that is a computer guy learning basketball, or is he a basketball guy learning computers? I said, no, coach, he's a basketball guy learning computers. Because when Eric Spoelstra first came, he locked himself literally. He lived in the video room for a while, learning how to do all of that. And it was at that point, right when he came, that the Heat got a video room. We didn't have I was really the first video coordinator, because unofficially, because as one of his first assistant coaches, I had to put the tapes together with 2 TVs, 2 VCRs. You look at the video room now. And what was interesting was I had to deal a lot with Eric when I was assistant coach on Pat Riley's staff, because Eric was the video guy. And Pat Riley was one of the first guys, I think, in the NBA to do this particular thing during the game. At halftime, we would have a tape in the VCR of with about 3 minutes left in the first half. I would make notes on what we should put on the tape. And if we were having a bad night that night, guarding a pick and roll, if we weren't doing a good job guarding a low post, or whatever it was, I would go in and tell Eric Spoelstra, these are the times, put these plays, if you can, on the tape. And then we would walk into the locker room in the old building, and I would say, the old arena, and I would say to Coach Riley, this is what's on the tape. Then he would decide at halftime if he would show it to the team. Rather than talk about it, he can show them, which is unbelievable. And Eric would always add something that maybe I missed, or was something he thought was important. And he also did the scouting reports. We would come back from scouting, and he would make the video for the scouting report. He would put up, and sometimes he would watch a tape that none of the rest of us didn't watch. We didn't have the time to do that, and he would add things to it. And I think that's where Coach and a lot of people started to realize, we got a brilliant guy doing the video work. And then little by little, he became an assistant on Stan Van Gundy's staff. And then he was on the staff when we won the first championship. And Pat Riley could see firsthand every day how brilliant he was, how good he is. And I think the first season really showed me, just reinforced everything I thought about him. You recall his first season as the head coach of the Heat, we drafted Michael Beasley with the second pick. Now, he was in the organization, Eric Spoelstra was, for a while now, and he loved Udonis like all of us did. We all respected and loved Udonis. He felt that we were a better team with Beasley starting and UD coming off the bench. And he had to go tell UD that. That was the first very difficult decision that he had to make. And he made it as a rookie coach. Now, UD wasn't happy about it, but he did it because he's always been a team player. And look at the result of the whole thing. So I think there were many signs that he was going to do a brilliant job. And in fact, when I was on the air with Eric for many years, I predicted that that Coach Spoelstra was on the fast track to be in the Basketball Hall of Fame. And now, last few years, everybody's jumping on the bandwagon. But you see, top 15 of all time. I personally think, he's the best. He's the best coach in the NBA. And that's not demeaning anybody else. It's really just he is, and there's other people that feel the same way. But he's just a brilliant coach. He is, and a great person. He hasn't changed a bit since he was in the video room as a person.
You know, Tony, I don't know if you remember, about a year ago, me and you had a conversation, and it was right after the pandemic had hit. And we were talking about how much purpose you found in the junior NBA and the junior Heat. You know, can you tell me some of the lessons that you've picked up along the way from working with these kids every single year, just in and out? Like you seem to have such a passion for doing it, and seeing the court fill today. You had 2 courts out there with kids.
Oh yeah.
It was a really beautiful thing. You know, like what have you picked up from them? What lessons have you learned along the way of doing the junior NBA as opposed to coaching and everything else?
Well, I'm a former teacher, and I saw firsthand bullying, for example, in the schools where I coached and taught. And so we started an anti-bullying campaign with the Junior Heat program. And as an extension of that, I do a lot of speaking to the kids about kindness, about I did it today. We have a positive camp. Nobody says anything negative to each other. If you win the game, you do it with class. You lose the game, you do it with class, all those sort of things. And so that's the main theme. When you go home, do a chore without being told. Make somebody smile today. I tell them stories about that. I tell them a great story about Dwayne Wade. True story about, it must be about 7-8 years ago now. We were walking out of the arena in Washington after playing the Wizards, and I happened to be walking out with Dwayne. You got to go around the back and go to the buses. And as we turned the corner, there must have been about 20 people there yelling Dwayne's name. They were behind a security rope. They wanted a selfie or an autograph. And Dwayne, I didn't even see this, but Dwayne saw this little 10-year-old, but looked like a 10-year-old kid who was kind of short for his age. The kid looked sad. Dwayne walked over, he knelt down, he goes, "Hi, I'm Dwayne Wade. What's your name?" And the kid was a little reluctant at first. Then all of a sudden, you saw the biggest smile. That kid's going to remember that for the rest of his life. And it's examples like that I give the kids about being kind and about being a good team player like Udonis Haslem. There's so many examples I can use with the Heat culture. We incorporate that into the camp, and we don't count the 5-on-5 results. We play 2 5-on-5 games every day. We don't care about that. It's all about developing your game, turn a weakness into a strength, all of those different things. And there's a theme through all the weeks, and even the awards. We don't care who the best player is. This week, the award, we have 18 teams. We have 177 kids this week. We have 18 teams. One kid from each team is going to win the most willing passer, not the best passer, the most willing passer. And then we got a sportsmanship award that someone's going to win out of 177 kids on the camper of the week. And so every week we have a different award like that, and it all gears to sportsmanship, kindness, be good. Sorry, my dog's doing stuff here. My dog's sitting down on the wire right now. I'm a little jealous. One of my dogs. So to answer your question, Tony, that's basically what the camp's all about.
Sean never flashed in you on a 5-on-5. You didn't think he was going to be an NBA star?
Oh yeah, right. We have Zaslow's kid in camp once in a while. Corey, he's a pretty good player, so it shows you he got it from his mother's side.
Yeah.
I think we could put Brady in the junior Heat camp. Actually, is he eligible? What is the maximum age?
But 7 to 16.
Just well, he came to us as 16. That almost counts.
So much.
There's probably
So here, Tony, you got to answer. Our guy Timothy Bain threw this in the chat. I got to ask you this: how long should Udonis Haslem have a roster spot? How long? How many years?
As long as he wants it.
There you go. That pretty much sums that up.
Yeah, it's a mutual thing. It's a mutual thing between the two.
Oh no, you said it right the first time. You know.
Yeah, he is a valuable asset. Obviously, people don't understand basketball. Don't understand what's going on here. It's part of the Heat culture. It's a big part of the Heat culture. So we'll see. We'll see if he gets that 20th season, if he wants it and if he gets it. And I know his dad wanted him to go 20. There's only a handful of people that have played 20 years in the NBA. But I even mentioned it today that UD, who's going to be in camp tomorrow, UD is I looked this up a few years ago. So it's about this, right? There's 76-year history of the NBA. There's been about 4,500 players, 4,500 players in the 76 years, somewhere around there. UD is the only player in the history of the NBA to be undrafted, play for one team for 19 years, and be the all-time leading rebounder. And he probably, I don't know if there's anybody else in the league that's more respected than him by his colleagues. That's what he has established for himself.
All right, Sean, I'm going to let you take it from here. We got others who want to jump in here, and I want to cede the floor a little bit. Make sure that you guys are making the donations. It's in the private chat. It's in our comment chat, so you can check that out. We want to get up over $1,000. I can tell you 5 Reasons is going to make a $100 donation at the end of the night. So we will add to what everybody else has done here. So get those donations in for Nicklaus Children's. We've got Giancarlo, Alpha are going to be coming in here as well, and we'll get to your super chats too. But thanks everybody for joining us. See, we're at 864. So let's get it over the 1,000 without me putting in the 100, and then I'll put in the 100 as the topper. Okay, so let's do that first before we do. But Sean, you grab it. Thanks everybody for support. Tony, thanks for jumping in.
You got it, guys. Doing a great thing. You know, that kid I mentioned earlier, the Heat is the one that had the campaign looking for the bone marrow donor, and they found one. So it all ties together.
That's pretty great. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks, Coach.
Yes, sir.
All right, so we're going to start to transition over. Like Ethan said, you know, we have the donation page in the chat. We're right around $900. We're trying to get it over 1,000. Any of your super chats as we go through the night, you know, we'll answer questions. We will take your trade request, all those different types of things. Right now, it's about 8:30. We've got a segment coming right now with, here we are, Timmy and Brian, the Bahama Rican boys, right on time. Great segue right there. My guys.
Right on time.
And it's the topic that everybody wants to talk about. It. We hinted it a little bit. Alex, thank you for coming in. I'm sorry I didn't get to say goodbye before you left. It's a little wild tonight. We're kind of all over the place, people coming in and out. But we're going to do some trade talks. So if you want us to talk about different iterations of trades, put it in a super chat. All those super chats go to the foundation. We're raising money for the Nicklaus Children's Hospital tonight. We will talk about those trades if you put it in the super chat. So I'm going to swing it over to Brian and Timmy, whoever wants to jump up first. What are you thinking is going on? We had some news today, late last night, the whole Celtics jumping in the Durant. Do you think it's real? Do you think it's fake? What is going on with that?
Well, Mr. Meme, Mr. Wendy said, you know, that was weeks old. So it's classic media posturing. The Raptors and the Heat and the, I guess, who else? Because the Suns are really in it. Basically, the Heat and the Raptors weren't doing anything, and the Nets were probably looking like, okay, we have a month and a half to training camp. Let's cook up these rumors, you know. But there's always the downside to playing the media game. I had barely woken up when I saw Jaylen Brown shake my head tweet. Now I know he's sick and tired of every time I start because of Kawhi, AD, now KD. You know, like, and we've always said that maybe you break up Jaylen and Tatum, but they finally got to the finals. So maybe it's not time keeping together. But I just think it's leverage, you know, leverage to get the Heat to blink or get the Raptors to throw in. So basically, this was we want Bam or Scotty Barnes type of league, and I still don't think it's enough.
Brian,
Danny Ainge is messy. I feel like every time somebody negotiates with him, it ends up in the hands of the media. He wants to let people know what's going on, and he wants to try to use the media as leverage, and he knows he can get away with that because he's a media darling, and everybody in the media loves him, probably except like me and a few other people. Not that I dislike him, but you know, I just the Boston aura doesn't really get me. But I'm not gonna do my bits tonight because this is for a greater cause. What I'm gonna say is this: I find the timing of it curious, and I find just everything that Boston's doing is curious because you just got to the finals with your roster. You just upgraded. You're actually better now because you did the Malcolm Brogdon trade. You're perfectly good. You just swept Kevin Durant, and Jaylen Brown was probably better than Jason Tatum for a good chunk of the playoffs, probably during the NBA Finals as well. And then this comes out. And I understand it's Kevin Durant, but I also think Boston doesn't need Kevin Durant. They've proven that. And they did get better anyway. So I just find that curious. It's also from the standpoint of, you know, trading for Kevin Durant. I mean, you know, there's a risk involved in terms of, and this is why the Nets aren't getting what they want in terms of a Godfather package. He's 34 years old. He's on the first of a 4-year deal. You got to make sure he's going to want to play there. there is some irony in Kyrie Irving leaving Boston the way he did and Kevin Durant potentially going there via trade that I've thought about. I don't think he's going to wind up with the Celtics, but there's just a lot there that I, more than anything, was kind of like, yeah, Boston, I don't know why. Like, I get it, but like, y'all don't need to do this necessarily. Y'all don't really need to, but it is what it is.
I agree with that. I'm sorry I got a little distracted. The coach just texted me, said thanks for coming on, and he's down for $100 also. So that with Ethan's 100 puts us over $1,000. But we're not stopping there. We're still working. Nope. We're still going to take super chats. We're still going to work those donations. We're trying to raise as much money as possible for the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. So I also agree with what you guys have said. I think it's a bunch of just, it's Woj in the middle of the night. He couldn't sleep. He put out some reports. I just don't believe in it. Now, that being said, if Boston gets Durant to pair him with Tatum, I don't know what you do about those two guys on the wings. How do you guard those guys? I mean, that's just wild, right? You pray. All the Haywood Highsmiths in the world aren't stopping that. I mean, I don't know what you do about that. Tony, what do you think about that rumor that came out today?
When I saw it, and then I saw that Marcus Smart
at 2:30 a.m.
At 2:30 in an article, right? Not a tweet. It was an article.
So I didn't see it till the morning. So
that, to me, that just screams, we're using our resources to try and move a market, which, okay, that's fine. But I was thinking about it. Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Ben Simmons on the Nets. That's what, in reality, that's what you would have, right? On the other side of that deal. Who's watching that team?
I mean, for fun.
Nets fans aren't showing up now, right? Like, are we pulling up for the Marcus Smart, Ben Simmons?
I mean, look, the Nets who also had, I believe during a playoff game, had somebody play one of them DMX songs. I'm forgetting exactly which one, and I should know this, obviously, but I'm forgetting. But they played a DMX song, a very popular one. Actually, I think it was just straight up Rough Riders anthem. They played it on one of them instruments that you don't hear Rough Riders anthem being played on, and it's not some shit that should go down in Brooklyn.
Right, the house organ. They're doing Rough Riders anthem.
It wasn't an organ, it was an instrument. It was worse. So it was bad. It was a halftime show. It was, you know what I mean? Like that, like a lot of, and people were like not even in their seats. They were just out and about getting pizza. The pizza's damn good at Barclays Center, I'll say that much. But look, to your point, Tony, like I just like there's a lot of poetry in this. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't think Boston should do it. It would be kind of a typical Boston move though, because like Jaylen Brown does what he did in the playoffs, and granted, the Heat made him look not very good at different points, but he also lit them up in other areas, and he was good just after that playoff run. And then it's like, all right, let's try to upgrade to Kevin Durant. And it's like, I mean, he was kind of your best player in the playoffs. And I understand it's Kevin Durant, but Jaylen Brown was just your best player in the playoffs.
And he's basically with 10 years younger, give or take, or
10 years younger. You know what I mean? Like it's not a move that they need to do. And I have a feeling that there's more risk than reward there, even though it is Kevin Durant, because of where they're the best team in the Eastern Conference right now on paper. They are.
I don't know if I believe that, right? Because they have a severe issue, and hopefully not hopefully, I hope it doesn't work out for them, but they have Malcolm Brogdon there to try and fill that secondary ball handler role, right? The guy that brings the ball across half court is going to turn it over. I think Kevin Durant's pretty damn good at doing that job too. For me, I'm on the other side of the fence. Why the hell did the Nets make this trade? Like, what's the deal for the Nets? Wouldn't you rather to pick compensation package that Phoenix allegedly has out there with Chris Paul, and then you can reassert your window after you figure out what you have with Ben Simmons? Like, what's the purpose of getting Marcus? You need Grant Williams or Rob Williams, and they're not going to trade them. But those are the guys you need. You don't need Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown to make your team work. So, when I was reading that this morning, this felt like all just nonsense. If that trade was broached and then the recourse was, hey, we want Marcus Smart to make the deal work, I still don't think that deal works for the Nets. I want Grant Williams or Rob Williams.
Yeah, I guess they say they want to put what is it? I don't pronounce it. Josiah. I pronounce it properly.
Yeah, Josiah.
Yeah. He wants to compete. He wants to put butts in seats. What was the quote? He'd rather have a hard-working 40-win team than superstars, But like you say, Ben Simmons, Jaylen Brown with Nicholas Claxton, like it's okay. But like
It's
I say,
clampy.
yeah.
It's clampy. It's kind of defense heavy. Maybe that's what they want.
But what are you gonna really do in the East? You already have your Boston, Milwaukee. You have the Heat. You have the Sixers. You have the Hawks. You don't know who's lurking beneath the surface. Like Charlotte are always in the mix for the play-in. I just feel like there's so many things that happen. So you're gonna fight to be a 8 seed again. I just don't know. Like, I understand why you do not want to tank because they don't own their picks. Of course, you don't want to give another team Tatum again. You don't know repeat a mistake.
If Kevin gets traded, the only thing he needs to make sure he doesn't do is get swept again. Because if he gets traded to a team and gets swept again in the first round, all that legacy talk is out the window. He might want to consider Golden State just so that doesn't happen.
Yeah, and before I toss it back to Sean here, so he could like reel us in, I would say if I'm Brooklyn, I'm absolutely just trying to keep Kevin Durant. I'll trade the other dude. You know that. I'll trade the other dude for like this bottle of water. But
yeah, redacted.
I'll keep Kevin Durant. Like I'm gonna try to like smooth that over, whatever. But the other dude, I'm done with that if I'm the Nets.
Yeah, I think Kevin wants to get away from him. I think that's the ultimate goal. And I don't think he wants to come out and say it because he very much is conscious of his reputation. But I think that's
also the friendship. The friendship too. He doesn't want to.
Yeah.
Everyone else already bashes him. He wants to be the one to publicly uphold them again.
Yeah, it's got to say something when he said, yes, Kyrie, I'll support you. If you don't get traded, I want to trade too. And then as soon as Kyrie figured out, well, no, I might stay, Kevin's like, I still want to go. Like that has to say something.
Yeah,
But you still have people that want him and are willing to give up, first round picks and perhaps Tyler Hero, and I'm not going to do it today. I'm be good, Sean. I'm be good.
That is true. Look, I want to shout out a couple people in the last few minutes. Ross Barron, he donated. Justin Gershevich, I believe is your name. Hopefully I pronounced it right. Justin Gershevich. And then Christian Rojas. So we've got almost $200 between the three of those guys. So we are very, very close on the page to being over 1,000. We know Coach Tony is donating 100. We said Ethan is donating 100. So we're right around $1,200 as long as those, as long as everybody pays up like they're talking. So we'll make sure they get on the donation page. We want you guys to get on the donation page. It's in the chat. It's in the description of our YouTube. You can check that out. Click on there. It goes right to the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. All of our super chats will also go there. So we're trying to raise money for the kids, basically. That's what we're trying to do tonight. I want to shift the topic to the topic that everybody wants to talk about, except for me. Duncan Robinson. It pains my heart, Everybody for months has been writing this guy off, even when the season wasn't over. What are we doing with Duncan Robinson, guys? If you had a choice right now, this moment, I'm going to give you all options. I'm going to go right around the circle. Tony, you just calm down, man. I see you like squeezing your fingers and stuff. Just relax.
I'm a little go ahead.
Because Duncan Robinson, you can trade his contract right now and still be in the KD sweepstakes. Yes. Mathematically, salary wise. Now, if Brooklyn wants Duncan Robinson, like I love him, we want him too. If Brooklyn wants him, you can't trade him. Let's say Brooklyn doesn't want him. Would you keep him or would you trade him to fill in the blank? I'm going to go right around the table. Tony, I'm going to start with you. Go ahead.
I'm trading him to get some more versatility right now. There's a conversation I think that we might need to have at some point is with Kevin Durant. Does Duncan make more sense on the roster than he does now? But I need more defensive versatility than what this team currently has on it.
Jimmy,
bring me Bossman 99. Bring me back the Bossman. Send him. I don't care if it's a 3-team deal, 2-team deal. Give up no picks, but you trade Duncan for Jay Carter. That's what I want.
Salsas.
Ryan.
Mainly because of his contract, he absolutely, for me, cannot be on the team by training camp. It just can't. Like you have to turn that into something. I feel like, even though my initial thing going into the offseason was the primary focus should be trying to see what you can get for the Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and draft compensation package. Like, what's the best you can do? And if that's not good enough, then you move Duncan and maybe a first, maybe Yurt, but you move the Duncan package on its own and try to get you a 4. We've talked about Marcus Morris before up here. That's somebody I think would make a lot of sense with the offensive versatility that Tony's talking about. Harrison Barnes, I think, also makes sense. I think I prefer Marcus Morris a little bit more in terms of offensive versatility. And I like the Jay Crowder idea too, because we've seen that work before. And I think it could absolutely work again. So I think Duncan Robinson has to go, unfortunately, for you, Sean.
It's not unfortunately. I mean, I get it. I understand at this point. Like the contract, like you said, is
Business.
a vehicle for a trade. Yeah, it's business. Exactly. And honestly, when you start thinking about the roster as it stands, there are so many guards. How do you find room for those guys that get minutes? You know, there's just too many guys in the room. Unless you're going to size down and put some of those guys at the 4, that's what opens up some minutes. I know that was on the, the 5 on the floor, but who are you putting there besides Jimmy and Caleb? I mean, there's just not a lot of, Haywood Highsmith obviously has been discussed, but like you can't play Vic at the 4. And I know, the Duncan at the 4 thing is trending. Alf is going to be on later. We'll talk with him about that. I see my guy Royal in the chat. Nobody wants Duncan Robinson. I his family. There's certain people. A small section of Heat Twitter. Just a silent majority, silent minority or whatever. But anyways, we do have another guest coming up. So we have Courtney Fallon. We're going to talk with her. She has a great Bad Signal podcast. She's also with Better Edge. We're also with Better Edge. So make sure you guys check that out. We're going to talk about Better Edge, and we'll keep this discussion going. This NBA offseason, Heat offseason. Courtney, what's up?
I have to tell you, Sean, the only person that will never give up on Duncan Robinson is Eric Spoelstra.
but didn't he, like, when he benched him? No,
I think situationally, I think probably he was looking at his roster and realizing that Max Strus was the better defender, and the defensive discrepancies that the Heat have had for so many times. But early in the season, I remember how bad Duncan was playing, and I was sending a text to some people on our broadcast team, and they were like, "Spo won't give up on him. Spo won't do it." And it's a bad look if you got $90 million on the bench. But at this point, I agree with you. You got to get rid of him. Got to get rid of him for training camp. I don't know how that's possible. I'm not a draft wizard here, but I agree with Timmy. Listen, I heard you say Jay Crowder. First of all, they should never have let him go 2 years ago. He is the perfect fit for the 4. You cannot size down. I know that Caleb has been, extremely open and enthusiastic about filling in on the 4. He came on our summer league broadcast and said that. He said, listen, I will do everything it takes. I really feel like I can fit in the 4. They cannot downsize. You need some beef up front.
Amen.
This is why we have Courtney on. Courtney just hits the ground running, like shot out of a cannon right into the broadcast. Yeah, we didn't have even, like Better Edge is in here saying Better Edge is pretty cool in the comments. They forgot to log out of their burner. Who are these guys? But you know what?
Let's go. If anyone wants a hat, maybe the lucky winner, whoever donates the most money, I'll send them a Better Edge hat.
There you go. Look at that.
How about that? How about that?
Check them out. There, you can use Courtney's code. You can use our code. It's better.
Your code. We already agreed on that. We have a fight over
Better Edge.
5 Reasons Sports code. Listen, legal in 45 states, peer-to-peer marketplace, no VIG, no fee. So guarantee where you're listening, you're in the continental United States, outside of a few states like Connecticut for some reason with their deal with DraftKings and all that stuff. We're still working on it, but it is legal to bet, and we have some great stuff coming up for NFL season, and you guys got to cover with the NBA. So why not jump on betteredge.com/5
reasons.
Number 5 reasons.
All right,
$20 sign-on bonus. You can use that $20 if you want to lose it quick. Just follow my MLB picks, because right now I can't. I couldn't pick a winner if it was right in front of me. My WNBA stuff's doing good. Tony's doing good with the WNBA. He's better than me at baseball.
You guys are the WNBA killers. I have to tell you, you know who I ran into this morning walking into Publix at 8:30 was Coach Anthony Carter.
Yeah.
He was getting his Starbucks heading back, and had his playbook, and we were talking, and I told him about the Jaylen Brown news. He couldn't believe it. He was like, I would see that they would trade Marcus before Jaylen. Total disrespect on Jaylen Brown. I will tell you that this really comes to no surprise to me. I would say no surprise, because a month ago I was up in Boston, and Brian Scalabrine, who is a broadcaster with the Celtics and with NBC Sports Network up in Boston. He had come on their draft pregame show and said there was no better package for Kevin Durant than the Boston Celtics. So he kind of like flew that out there, and I was listening to a lot of sports radio up in Boston while I was at the time. It was just ad nauseum. I had to turn it off, but they were like, why would he say this? So it seems as though, I mean, maybe he has something, maybe he doesn't, but this Jaylen Brown on the trading block with Derek Wright and one first-round draft pick by the Celtics, it comes as no surprise to me, but maybe it's just a fish in the water to get Pat Riley a little more boiled up. Boil his blood a little bit more.
Like I said earlier, it basically was the Bam and Barnes signal flare. Like, okay, you want to try to go to Boston, then put Scotty Barnes or Bam on the table, And I still don't think those teams are going to fall for the bait. I don't think so.
No, and they could probably do this once every month if they wanted to. It's Kevin Durant, for Christ's sakes. As soon as he hit the market, I'm sure everybody put their second best player in a first-round draft pick and an offer, every single team in the league. Yeah. So they could probably do this for a while if they want to keep leaking stuff.
And even if it's a flare, it's like, all right, so now you pissed off Jaylen Brown. And what's going to happen when you go back to training camp? You just got your chemistry right. You did a good job of turning yourself around last year. Great job turning yourself around last year. We thought they were playing bound at best at one point last year. They turned it around. They had a great run, went all the way to the finals. And then, our best player in the finals, yeah, we might want to trade him for Kevin Durant because he's Kevin Durant. And even though he is Kevin Durant, that was your best player in the playoffs last year. You're going to make him in the middle of the night or the middle of the day, whenever
2:30
on a crappy,
trust me,
on a crappy Monday afternoon in July, he's going to tweet out shaking my head because you did that.
I need you to stop attacking the end of July. I know you're having a bad time right now.
July is not.
It's sangria season, man. You have to drink more sangria.
I don't drink wine, bro.
Oh, that's too.
I don't drink alcohol. I don't drink any alcohol.
All right, Tony's jacked up on the wine and the juice and the fruit.
the mimosa.
The mimosas. It's beautiful July weather, guys.
He loves the mimosas. I
got water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, well, I mean, like back to Jaylen Brown personally. I mean, I'm one of the very few up in, of the voices. Obviously, I covered the Heat, but I dabbled back and I look back at that team because I looked back at the Heat this time last year with wandering eyes and thinking I really want to go cover this team with Pat Riley and made that dream come true. Total manifestation. Cheers to Tony because he's all about that manifesting. Here we go. But I really watching them. I know that Jason Tatum is he's the superstar up there. Yes, he's the star. He's the one cut from the cloth of Kobe. But outside of the dribble penetration issues, the dribbling stuff that Jaylen Brown has had, some of the cold streaks, some of the injuries that he's dealt with. I just think that Jaylen Brown is a more complete player. I think he's more consistent, and Jason Tatum just didn't show up in the finals. And I've been saying this, and I got killed by a bunch of green teamers on Twitter saying that. But I was like, I would put Jaylen Brown at the forefront of any team. And listen, Jaylen Brown also his new agent is Kanye West, so Kanye loves Miami. Let's send him down.
I said that. I said, look, and
that's a ticking time bomb right there. If you think about that, I Kanye song stuck in my head this morning. I was like,
did you see
I missed the old Kanye?
Did you see the photo with Jaylen Brown,
Kyrie?
Those three. I'm like, that's
and Kyrie is Jaylen's mentor, so that's a weird. And we know the power of a Jaylen Brown tweet because he tweeted that the vibe was going to shift, and it shifted. The power. So I actually give it 2 days. And Kanye West tweets like a weird tweet, like the Boston Celtics, the respect. Like I could just see it spiraling out of control because of a 2:30 a.m. tweet from Wojnarowski. Like this because the potential to go very bad because of who his manager is.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown is also one of the really he's wildly intelligent. He is outspoken during the Black Lives Matter movement. He was one of the first athletes up there in Boston. A racist city, according to LeBron James, but he was one of the forefront players that was marching after George Floyd. And as we say this, Sean, I'll let you take it away. We hit 1,000. Let's go.
We did just hit 1,000. The last donation, we want to thank our guy, Gadiel Cartagena. He made the donation that put us over 1,000.
Oh,
and
did we get a better edge hat? Should I
he
send him
gets a
one?
better edge hat, and he gets to come on this stream at
Get
9
on here,
o'clock.
man.
He's it's you know what? That's what we do here. You know, if you make that type of thing. So yeah, he'll be on here in a few minutes. You can talk about it, how it impacts his life. I mean, this is great. So honestly, though, on a serious note, keep on donating. Please don't stop. We reached our goal of $1,000. It's been less than 2 days that we've done this. It's been great. We're doing a great thing for the Spoelstras. You know, it's kind of cool that they're aware of what we're doing. I feel good about that. We're not doing it, you know, we're doing it for these kids. We're trying to not doing it for five reasons. We're trying to make it obviously to help these kids in South Florida at Nicklaus Children's Hospital. You can click on the link that's in the chat. Get your donations in. Let's get it to 2,000. Let's see what we can do. We got Alf and Giancarlo Navas coming up here in a little bit. Those guys, it's going to get wild in here. I'm sure we'll get the super chats and donations going. What other questions do we have for Courtney? Courtney, what do you see like in terms of the landscape of the NBA right now? Like, what do you see since we exited, the Warriors got the trophy? What has, kind of been those seismic changes that have happened over the last couple months? Like, what have you seen drastically change?
I think that we're going to see a villain switch in the upcoming year. I feel like we're going to see a villain switch to these Philadelphia 76ers. I think that that's going to be a real gut punch to a lot of Heat fans down here. Oh, Sean's covering his head because he lives in Philadelphia.
It's going to be a gut punch to my whole life.
So I really feel like they're going to, it's the attention's going to turn away from the Nets. I do believe that Kevin Durant, they're not going to find a trade partner for him. I think that Sean Marks has just lost his damn mind. I don't think that they're really going to be serious. I don't think anyone really outside of the New York Knicks, and I don't think Kevin Durant really wants to go to the Knicks. I mean, like, what's going to happen when the Knicks get Kevin Durant or they get Donovan Mitchell? They're going to be out in the first round. So the only team that really has those first round picks. I think that there's going to be a villain switch. Markieff Morris, I know that there's been rumors about him wanting to go up there in Philly. He's from Philly originally, but he and PJ Tucker, and I mean, I just know that they're extremely close in the locker room. It was funny when that last Game 6 video, PJ said that he went up with Markieff and they went up to Jimmy and they're like, yo, Jimmy, we need 50, So, the two of them, although he did spend the majority of the time, injured and on the bench, I think that he's looking for a redemption story. So I think that the Sixers are going to get bigger and badder. And, there's going to be that wild card, for the rest of the league right now. I do think there's a team that I really like. And I know that I'm not saying that they're going to be, competing for the East crown, but the Detroit Pistons, I really like.
Yeah.
I really, really like what they got going on. Jaden Ivey, that story, if anyone else didn't cry on draft night watching him get drafted 5th overall by the Pistons. His mother was played for the Detroit Shock. His grandfather, who passed away, he played for the Detroit Lions. Cade Cunningham, a lot of those kids, those young up and coming kids, I think that they're going to be a really good team and a really good force to be reckoned with. But outside of that, I listen, I think that they got to take care of their own. They got to make a deal, and I don't really want them to sit here. And I don't think that Pat Riley's going to, come back and be like, all right, we're going to rest on our laurels and run it back. Even Coach Carter today, Anthony Carter, he was like, listen, we cannot run it. He literally looked me dead in the eye at 9 a.m. and he was like, we cannot. And a lot of the coaches also agreed, we cannot run it back with this same team. We got to make a move, and we're hoping that it happens soon. So
listen, Jaden Ivey too, a great pick for Rookie of the Year. They're going to have Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart bending teams to the rim, and they're going to have a lot of attention on Cade Cunningham. He should have opportunities to score that basketball. Yeah. And that's really all that they care about for that award. So that team's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Before you get here, I want to know how you feel about the Hawks, because I still think, I understand.
I love that kid. I love that Dejounte Murray. I love, and first of all, that's the best player that Trae Young has played with. I mean, he hasn't had a superstar like that. That kid is special.
Yeah.
And I see big things from that team as well. But I'm not really so sure. They traded my guy from Maryland, Kevin Herter, the redhead.
The red velvet.
No, he was balling out of control during the playoffs. I kept saying, I was punching Tommy Tom. I'm like, where did he go to school? They're like, Maryland. He went to he went to my alma mater. I didn't even know. I'm sorry. Okay. I think that team's going to be good, but I really think the focus is going to be on Boston. It's going to be on Philly this season.
What's been your favorite? You came back to the market, right? And you had a lot of energy and hit the ground going. What's been your favorite story to cover last year? Like, what's one of your favorite moments that you got from last year's season?
I think my time traveling up to Boston, because there's such a limited ability for someone like me when I have to run the radio broadcast and make sure that everything I loved the post game camaraderie with those press conferences. Like, I was sitting in Boston when Kyle Lowry was sitting there and he was going like this, and he was like making little kid faces. Him and Jimmy, just the goofiness. I think really one of the best stories that really is just our social media team and Carla Ruiz, who is unbelievable. I would say that hands down, we have the best, most talented video producers with the Miami Heat. The mashups and stuff that they have put together, those have been so fantastic. And I think the funniest one was just the Jimmy Butler February 22nd video. I think I watched that like 18 times.
Jimmy Butler Day.
Just the goofiness. PJ's birthday, that video on the plane where, they're giving him his cake and Jimmy's like, why do he's like, no one likes your birthday? Like, shut up. It's PJ's birthday. This is just like, it's just the lightheartedness of the locker room. I really fell in love with just the chemistry that this team had. And unfortunately, things ran out and everyone ran out of energy and soft tissue issues and, and gas in the end. But, I would like to keep this core together. Seismic change is not necessarily needed, but I think to answer the call for a lot of these Heat fans, they really need to see something happen and see something go down, because you want to get help for Jimmy. I mean, Jimmy's in his prime. And listen, as the great Ethan Skolnick said on my podcast, Bad Signal, a couple of weeks ago, Pat Riley owes nothing to this team, nothing to no one, not even Bam, only to Jimmy Butler. It's the Jimmy Butler rebuild, and that's the only person that he is owed. And I just really want to see our superstar get some help.
Speaking of help, we got a bunch of guys coming on right now. We got some pretty cool guests coming up. We got Dos Minutos, Heat superstar. We got Elf. We got G from Miami Heat Beat. And then we got From 5 Reasons. Brady Hawk, mentioned earlier, maybe is going to junior Heat camp. We don't know. Tony said he would let him in.
I'm there. I was there today.
You were there today?
Yeah. I was
so
there
we'll see if we can get him in there.
Yeah.
And then we also got the man, the myth, the legend that just made that $1,000 dono to put us over the top, Gadiel Cartagena. So, Courtney, we want to let you plug before you get out of here. You got lots of cool stuff going on. Make sure you talk about Better Edge.
Better Edge. Yeah. BetterEdge.com/Courtney or BetterEdge.com/5. Who do you? Oh, yep. We got some Fade Fallon merch that's coming up this fall. We got a whole lot of video production podcasts, like I Am Athlete style. We finally have, got sort of the equipment that's ready to go for football season. And we're still going to stay locked in on the Miami Heat and some basketball talk. We got a bunch of great podcasts. We had Sarah Spain on. We had Stephen A. Smith, if you didn't catch that one before. We had Brian Baldinger, Ryan Russillo. Go check out the page. Bad Signal Podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And thank you so much for your time.
Courtney, thank you so much for coming on. Everyone, thank you guys for joining us. And now we are going to move on to our next set of guests. The stage is about to get real full. The Bahama Rican boys are exiting. Thank you guys. We appreciate you. Make sure you check out them. They put out the Bahama Rican boys usually about every week. Great episodes of those. We're going to start getting some more on stage. First off, alumni, the OG, Giancarlo Navas. What's up, man?
Good evening. How are y'all? Except for Tony. I'm kidding. I love you, man. How are you guys? Man, what a great thing that you guys are doing. And I've always said on our show, whenever we ask Heat fans to step up, they come out, man, in droves. And a lot of people nationally say bad things about this fan base. But I mean, the support that you guys have gotten tonight, the stuff that we have gotten, the stuff that Bally has done in the past, the support that Heat fans give, man, it's world class, man. So shout out to the listeners, to the fans. Just, I love our community.
I say it every single time we do something like this, but whenever they have a chance to be humans, everybody rises to the moment. It's such a beautiful thing to see. And we've raised over $1,000. We had $700 before we even started the stream tonight. So it's just been incredible, man. The generosity from everybody.
Arriving right to the stage, showing off his 5 Reasons shirt, looking great. Dos Minutos, thank you for coming in. What's up, man?
Thanks for having me on the show. It's nice to finally make it onto a real professional podcast.
Of course.
Love it. Although it's a little embarrassing to be on with Gianni, to be honest. I like to.
We have beef with the Deuces, so I don't know how long we could stay, but
all right. I like to quickly clear up some Connecticut slander in the previous segment, which Courtney seemed to be upset that her betting show cannot run in Connecticut, which we don't like smut. We're not about smut in Connecticut. Do the smut in the other 49 states, not in our state. Keep that out.
Connectifax.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
thank you, Gianni.
Speaking of smuts, great segue. Alf is I'm messing with you. I'm sorry. Alphonse Sydney, what's up, my man? How you doing?
He win. No, I'm a one-trick pony at this point. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. I'm sorry, guys. I'm moving. I don't have a mic. Do I sound terrible?
It doesn't matter.
Oh, do care. Okay, good.
Better sound quality than the Deuces.
Sean.
This is a 5 Reasons show, so I don't give a shit. I mean, sorry.
Sean,
you can curse. Feel free.
Oh, okay.
Not around Brady.
To a super chat.
Brady's here. Now
I feel like this isn't it.
So a super chat, great plug there. The super chats, you can pay money, and we'll put your question or whatever you want to say on the screen, and then that money's going to go off to the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. So if you want to say, you want to insult us, you want to ask us questions about Heat free agency, whatever it may be, do that super chat. You can also donate directly to the Children's Hospital if you don't trust us with your money. You want to put it right to them. That link is also in the chat. You can do that directly. We just went over $1,000. The person that made that $1,000, not $1,000 donation, but put us over $1,000 was Gadiel Cartagena. Thank you for that.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate
Can you guys
that.
hear me?
Absolutely.
Okay, because my whole mic situation has been weird, but I think we're good. Happy to make that $1,000 bet. I will, or not bet, donation. Sorry, I had my Better's Edge stuff going through my head because I won the hat. But yeah, I'm excited. This is cool. This is cool that we're able to raise money. It's such short notice for such a good cause. So I'm glad to be here with everybody, except Yanni because he's wearing a pickleball hat. And
what? It's a Wimbledon.
This
is at the All England Club in Wimbledon. This is straight from the source.
I told you guys earlier.
I'm not gonna lie.
Oh Jesus! I told you guys earlier 9 o'clock it was going to get wild. But we also had Brady Hawk here, and Brady Hawk, he caught a little stray there. There was a little we were going to send Brady Hawk to junior heat camp, and Tony Fiorentino seemed open to it. Brady, I want you to people were questioning if you could ball. I think Brady can ball, but I'm going to let you take the stage and defend yourself there.
I mean, yeah, I was just hooping today, so of course. But I think he almost made an exception. I don't know. He looked like he was debating it, so I was just like, I'll accept that. I think I'm a little outside that bracket. We were saying a little bit, but 16, 19, I feel like that's a major exception he'd have to make.
Depends. How do you feel about Karl Malone?
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't think I've ever. Who's that? I've never seen him play.
Not a fan of him. Not a good
Brady,
dude. Not a good dude.
Is Brady a hooper or a baller?
Oh, he's a shooter.
I'm a hooper.
Brady's a hooper.
Who does the drip
So
drop
look, guys,
on the show? Who is the drip drop person on the show?
Oh
Tony?
my goodness! Yeah, well,
I think it's
Who does
Tony.
the drip drops?
I was with Gianni one time, and I gave the loudest drip drop in public. I've never been more embarrassed in my life.
At the top of the Sugar Hotel, by the way, which
Yep.
caught fire the other day. So
Wow,
Well, that doesn't
Shout out
seem
to the
embarrassing at
Sugar
all. That seems really cool.
yeah, just you, me, and Miami Heat UK, and all of Biscayne Bay.
the bartender wanted to have nothing to do with us after.
He
we
thought
got
you were
done with
Moose.
that.
He came over and wanted a picture. You had to explain to him that I'm not the movie guy. It was really awkward.
at least you didn't have to play beer pong with Tony. I'll leave it at that. We thought Duncan Robinson was cold.
Oh,
Tony,
I'm correcting this story too because you gave some nonsense on that show, and I'm going on there tomorrow to correct. Listen, the first time we played, it was 6 o'clock at night. It was 6 a.m. and we were already like a couple beers in. Right. The next time we played, I'm fine. Wes Goldberg is missing everything. He switches teams, goes on to Sean's team, All of a sudden, Wes Goldberg is Kobe Bryant. He's making every single shot. He's kicking everybody off the table. It's nuts. So this story has to be adjusted, man. You're putting me in a bad light.
What's Tony talking about right now? What's Tony talking about?
Hey, Sean.
It's great.
Sean.
Yo.
When Coach Tony was first down, I noticed you had the lights off. Were you taking a nap? You were taking a nap, weren't you? Because, I mean, we were all kind of like teetering. Did you know that Coach Tony thinks Spo is the best coach in the NBA?
That he does.
That's a good take.
That he does.
A surprising take. Shocking, even.
So let's get to the topic at hand. The state of the Miami Heat. Much debated. You know, it's been all over the place this summer. Not a whole lot has happened. I'm going to throw it out there. Anybody that wants to jump first. What are you guys thinking? We got all these trade rumors, Durant, Mitchell. Who knows what's going to happen? Is Duncan going to stay? Is Duncan going to go? Like, what do we got going on here?
It's a catastrophe. It's the worst offseason in Miami Heat history. We lost PJ Tucker. Without PJ Tucker, the Miami Heat are a 10th seed at best. We're going to be fighting for the play-in with the New York Knicks. I mean, everything is over. Everything is over.
Riley's asleep at the wheel. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, he's absolutely asleep. I mean, KZ Okpala was right there. He's a unicorn, right? Brady's shaking his head. Brady knows. Riley, supposed all-time great, right? The alleged great. It's just, I don't know. He's just KZ Okpala right there, gone. I mean, a team once gave like 5 second-round picks for him.
Perfect 4 next to Bam.
I've been saying that for years. So,
Why
this
haven't
guy
we signed Montrezl Harrell yet?
Great defensive player, I hear. Just perfect, big, gives a lot of size. Just a great defender.
Christova.
Hassan Whiteside's a free agent.
A team gave him max money once. That guy's a max talent.
And we need a real 5 next to Bam.
Rim protection.
Because we all know Bam is a small forward.
Bam's more of like a 2-guard. Brady's nodding. I think Bam's more of a 2-guard. Dose, I don't know. I know that Crab, your co-host, says this often as well, but I think he's more of a 2. I don't know if you remember when PJ Carlissimo played Durant at the 2. I kind of see it like that.
I wasn't listening to you. I blacked out.
Fair. That, like Riley at the wheel.
Yeah.
Sean, people got to stop overreacting, man. This is I don't know how many times we're not going to trust Pat and Andy and Spo. They have one bad off season, right? Because if they had kept Jay Crowder, they can't get Lowry. They have no flexibility, right? So let's not pretend that these guys don't know what they're doing. They fell in love with a 30-11 run, and that's really one of their only blemishes in like 20 years, right? So there was nobody available. They didn't want to hard cap themselves and put themselves in kind of not great salary positions by retaining Tucker on a third year. So by the way, a third year they didn't even want to give Dwayne Wade once upon a time. So I don't know why people are freaking out. They're gonna figure stuff out. They're gonna have moves to make in the middle of the season. They're not gonna be at the bottom of the conference that they have to crawl out of. They're gonna hover around 3 to 6. And then they're going to make a move for a 4, and then they're going to get a lot better. How many times do we have to see them do this for fans to stop overreacting? If you think that this is the exact same team that's going to open the playoffs, you're fucking delusional.
They're not going to make the playoffs. What are you talking about?
Thank you. At least finally someone's realistic here, right? That's what we've been waiting for. G's over here pumping sunshine and shit.
I'm tired of these.
Gotta hold it down for late.
I'm tired of these Miami Heat beat sunshine pumpers. Sick of them. Get off Riley's you know what.
Speaking of reality, narcolepsy is the disease. Thank you for the super chat, Johnny. 1999. Way to just, swing it right in there. In all seriousness, great job, guys. We appreciate that. We also just got a donation on the page from the Marco Romo. Thank you, Marco Romo, for coming in there, giving us that. We're up over a little bit over 1,000, approaching 1,100. We still got 100 from Ethan. We still got 100 from Coach Tony. So we're right around $1,200. Let's keep it going. Get all that money's going to Nicklaus Children's Hospital. So we appreciate that. I see we got one more that just popped in from Sean Pasick. If Pat Riley pulls off a KD or Donovan Mitchell trade, is he the greatest old white man of the 21st century?
Harrison
I'm going to throw
Ford.
that to another old white man. Dose, what do you think about that?
It's Harrison Ford, clearly. Then maybe Pat Riley.
I mean,
I
it's
thought you were gonna say
debatable. Though. It's
I thought
close.
you were going to say Harrison Citron.
I have
Hot take?
a hot take Harry joke. Tell me when you're ready for it.
We are. We're always ready for a hot take, Harry joke.
No better time than now.
So this is something serious. Alf and Gianni know I had cancer 3 years ago. I had very bad cancer, actually, and I had to have very aggressive chemotherapy and radiation. Every day is like living in a hot take Harry timeline. That's it. Thank you. That's my time. Thank you. In all seriousness, I really did have cancer. To say something positive, I really did have cancer, and it's such a cliche, but when you're feeling poorly and you don't know how much time you're going to have, and that's the only thing that you really care about is having more time. Like, man, I'm going to miss my family. I'm going to miss spending time watching Heat games with my friends. So anybody out there listening, if you can donate a little money and just give families more time, if we can push this research forward a little bit and give families more time together, that's such a huge positive. Like, I appreciated all the support I got when I was ill. I really was ill. And, these people are doing incredible work, and we want families to stay together. So everyone can reach in their pocket and give a little bit. I would appreciate it. And I know everybody on here would appreciate it.
Hey, Dose, appreciate you saying that. That was beautiful. And right on time, Justin Reynolds, $99.99 dono, $100. We're going to round it up a penny. We'll make Ethan give us a penny. He owes us some money at some point. So $100 dono, that's awesome. We appreciate that. No message in there, just throwing the money in there. So we appreciate that. That's going to go to the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. What about, there's no way to segue from that. I mean, I don't know what I'm supposed to do here, but what, we talked earlier about not really missing out on anything. The market hasn't moved. It's basically been constipated for a month and a half. I don't know what's, it's going to move the market. Are you guys concerned about waiting? It doesn't seem like a lot of you guys, it seems like the narrative is that we're not concerned because the market really hasn't moved. Brady, what do you think about that?
I mean, if you make the minor move, it takes you out of the big move. And if you waited this long, there's just no reason to panic now and send Duncan in a pick for that certain four. Which makes you feel happier today on Twitter that your team got a little better on paper. But ultimately, now you're out of, tomorrow Kevin Durant becomes available and you don't have that extra asset to give up to kind of get him and land him. And maybe that extra pick could be the difference. So I feel like you have to pick one or the other. And I think it's pretty clear what they're focusing on. They're focusing on the big whale. And I just don't think they're going to make that panic move. And that's when it comes back to running it back worse without PJ. But like Gianni said before, there's still the trade deadline. This team is, even if they go into the season with this team, they're not going to come out of the season with this team. If the Kevin Durant stuff, maybe it doesn't, but it should be a little clearer by that February range. It should be clear with the way they're heading, at least around that time, what the record looks like in Brooklyn. Let's say he goes back to Brooklyn. So everything looks a little differently for the Heat's perspective. I know Alf said it before, Bam at the 2 is probably ideal with Dedmon and Omer in the front court together as well. I think they still need that extra big to kind of make that whole lineup work. But in all seriousness, it really comes down to, if they do run back this team, what do the lineups look like? I think Tyler Hero is the starter. If they come back, obviously he's the starting 2. But what does everything else look like? Are you plugging Caleb Martin at the 4? Those lineups with Jimmy and Bam are not really that great last night. He's more of the plugger in for Jimmy in general, not the guy next to Jimmy. Do you go big with Omer and everybody can have fun on Twitter? Or do you just basically push Jimmy to the 4 and say, we're going to go lean total offense like they've been saying they want to do? Just like when they drafted Nikola Jovic, all they do is preach defense, and all of a sudden they drafted a guy who doesn't defend and goes all offense. If that doesn't show you in the draft which way they're leaning, at least, I think that shows you. So I just don't know how they dissect that. It just comes down to, where will they land with that? If they have to go and kind of maneuver those different lineups, where does that land them by the time they can make the move by the deadline? That'll be the question. But they're not going to be a playing team, even though they might be that 10 seed.
We had 2 donos before we keep moving. John Clark, thank you for your $10 dono. He said, live forever. Appreciate that. Royal A. Shepherd, $4.99 dono. He says Alf looks like RJ Barrett when he was in high school.
Does that mean that Royal?
And Royal looks like Beetlejuice when he was in high school.
And on that note, Gab, what do you want to follow up what Brady said? What are you thinking about the roster construction?
Beetlejuice is taller.
I would appreciate if we didn't do the big box. There we go. Shout out Royal, man. But yeah, I think the roster construction is a little funky right now. Like, you're doing power forward by committee, but you don't really have any starting caliber 4 on your team. So it's a little iffy right now. And we're saying we're leaning into offense, but simultaneously, is Nikola Jovic supposed to be a better offensive player than PJ Tucker? I don't think so from day one. So you're obviously doing some projecting with a Haywood Highsmith. I don't think Caleb Martin as a starter makes that much sense. So to me, it really it's either you're going big with Yurt, or you're hoping Haywood Highsmith just has that dog in him and he just starts to play like PJ Tucker, the way he said during Summer League, and then you go from there. But it's weird. Like, this is a weird roster construction right now. Obviously, you have Jimmy and Bam, so how much of that really even matters? They're so talented. They're so good. But it's going to be a little bit weirder to start. I think starting Tyler Hero will help a lot, though, in terms of having those faster starts. And if whoever you plug in at the 4 can shoot from above the break, it'll definitely help the offense a lot, because PJ Tucker, when you played against those better teams in the playoffs, we love PJ. We know what PJ brings. He's a really good corner shooter, but teams were abusing the fact that he was scared of shooting from above the break. So you add that factor in, and maybe the starting offense actually looks cleaner. And I think having a good screen setter, which could kind of lean in Yurt's direction a little bit, would help Kyle and Tyler in the starting lineup kind of get some of those cleaner looks off pull-ups.
Real quick, we just got 2 more donations on the page. One of them was from Tatum Ireland, donated, and then Bentovia, friend of the program, friend of all programs, I would say. Bentovia, he also donated. Thank you guys for making donations. We are now, looks like we are right around $1,100, so continuing to push it up over $1,100. I missed one right there, so looking good. G, what do you think about, the question that we kind of posed to Brady and Gab, like the situation of waiting, going? What do you think we should do?
I mean, they're going to wait until stuff becomes available. On the Jovic thing, I think that we said this on our show the other day. Like, I don't think expecting a guy like that to be good day one is wise, as kind of Gad talked about a little bit. Like, these are projects, and you wait. I mean, you wait that out. You kind of see how the market forms. I don't know if we set our sights at Durant, but other guys become available, as we saw with Ariza or whatever. I mean, they've had a revolving door at those kind of wingy 4s, and they'll find something that's, decent, or, sometimes you luck out and you get Iguodala and Crowder and you get to the finals. Other times, you're trying Harkless, you're trying Ariza. I mean, it's a very difficult position to fill, and it's very expensive, and their money's just tied up in other places. And it's kind of difficult when there's a hard cap in place and everything to kind of retain, especially older guys. If PJ was a lot younger, I don't think that we'd be having any conversation. I'm pretty sure they would have hard capped themselves and dealt with the circumstances later. But, as you saw, as Gad pointed out, he was a problem in the playoffs. Rob Williams was just totally not even in the corner, not even above the break. They were just ignoring him in the corner, right? So clearly, like, he was a limiter when it really mattered for their offense. And I think that their sights are set bigger. So Jimmy at the 4 is a likely answer to start the season, unless that Highsmith or that other kid from San Antonio really works out. I mean, they're going to have chances in camp and in preseason to prove themselves. Probably Jimmy at the 4 is probably not the best to keep him healthy. That's a lot of wear on his body. And I think it should be a weapon, not your main arsenal, I think, in the long haul of the season. But they may have to go to that for some time. We may see some 2 big lineups that we know how much I hate those, but some of it's going to be by necessity, and we're they're kind of going to feel it out from there. But I think we all agree that they're going to go into the playoffs a different looking team, and they're going to have options, whether it's guys that they get in a buyout market, whether it's guys that they trade for. And by the way, guys, other teams, look at what happened to the Warriors. They can't keep. They couldn't keep Otto Porter, right? And there are going to be other teams that think that they're better than they are, that are going to try to get rid of guys that they know that they're not going anywhere, and that they're not going to keep past this offseason, stuff becomes available. It's a very fluid league. So I would advise everybody to be patient, to wait, and to see what becomes available.
Dose, did he just do a could go either way?
He really did.
I really did. It was a lot of work.
I think he did a might go either way, actually.
Oh, man, even worse.
Right.
Sean, is 5 reasons going to run it back?
Man, I didn't know we were going to go this direction.
Somebody had to ask. I mean, if the Heat are going to run it back, I mean, somebody had to.
I think our agents are all in discussion right now. We're trying to iron things out. We're weighing different possibilities. We'll see what happens. It could go either way. Basically the same thing. It could go either way.
Or it might go either way.
It might go either way. You're right. I got a couple donos to read. Voodoo Vision donated $4.99. We appreciate that. Then we have a question. I'm going to throw this one to Elf because I know Elf, like myself, has a strong heart for Duncan Robinson. It says, if you can get a 4 for Duncan without picks, Jonathan Isaac is the question. Can't imagine we can get much for him. Then okay. But otherwise, Elf is right. Try Duncan at the 4. I want to give Elf the platform. We can go full screen. We can do whatever.
Can I interject the before part about Jonathan Isaac? Because you don't know what January 6th trial he's going to be in. So his availability is a huge question mark. So I would advise against Mr. Why I Stand. Continue on.
Yeah, get Jonathan Isaac away from my team. Yeah, you don't ever trade a star like Duncan Robinson for Jonathan Isaac. But yeah, it started off as a joke, start Duncan at the 4, but I've talked myself into it, right? Because like I'm looking around the league and I see, Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert, I'm like, okay, let one of them chase Duncan around screens for 48 minutes. It's a great idea. And then, Duncan, he has 6 fouls, so use him in like 3 minutes. But hey, don't worry about that. But yeah, seriously, I think people are like going too crazy about the offseason. Like Gianni said, like Kevin Durant is available. Kevin Durant wants to come to your team. You exhaust every single possibility until that option is done. It's run out. He goes somewhere else, or he stays with Brooklyn. And then in the meantime, like Gianni said, there's going to be other power forwards. There's going to be guys that shake loose. I think Duncan Robinson in a pick at some point get you in the conversation for a power forward. I don't like any of the options that are on the team right now. I know Jovic had one really good summer league game, and the entire Twitter sphere went absolutely insane. I'm hearing about Haywood Highsmith. If you don't get out of my face with Haywood Highsmith, I don't want Caleb Martin. I don't want Caleb Martin starting at the 4. Listen, Haywood Highsmith is nice. It's a nice story. If Haywood Highsmith is starting at the 4 at the beginning of the season, it's something wrong. Something went wrong, right?
Can I interject here? Sorry, can I interject? Myers Leonard started like 40 games for us, and we still made it to the finals one year. It is not about how you start; it's how you finish. Anybody,
I get it.
Luke Babbitt started at one point.
I get it, but if it was never the plan for Haywood Highsmith to start at power forward going into next season.
Oh,
so
hell
if
no!
He's starting. That's what I'm saying. If Haywood Highsmith is your starting power forward, something went wrong. So I do think they'll figure something out. They'll make some kind of move, whether it be like John Collins or something like that. But until Kevin Durant, something is decided there, you don't do anything, right? You when the whale like this comes around and he wants to come to your team, you do everything possible to get him. And then Heat fans are just going to have to sit tight. Like, I know we love transactions. Like, we love transactions more than we love actual games, it seems like. So, like, it feels like nothing has happened, but nothing's happened really around the league. Like, what? Am I supposed to get crazy over? What's that dude that signed in New York? I can't remember his name. Malcolm Brogdon.
Jalen Brunson?
Yeah, him. And then Malcolm Brogdon. Like, none of these guys, I don't care. Like, I don't care about it. Like, none of these guys move the needle, like, at all. Like, are the Knicks going to be better because they got Brunson? I have no idea. Like, he looks like Royal Shepherd. Like, I just don't think that any of these moves that have been made so far are big needle movers, and I think Heat fans just need to chill.
We do have another dono. I'm going to swing it over to Sean Pasick. $10. Those Canadian dollars. Those are worth a little bit more, I believe. I don't know. But Jim Butler at the 4. Is there any evidence that guarding up affects durability? I've only heard this as an NBA media I don't even know what that word is.
Contrivance.
Contrivance. I don't know. You can't use big words with look at the panel that's here right now. Maybe Dose can understand those. I don't got it. So
I feel like that's kind of
followed by a
Not even
podcast
watching,
host
yeah.
suggesting a team plays smaller.
Mhm.
Dose, what do you think about Jimmy at the 4?
Well, I think they played best when Jimmy's at the 4 a couple of years ago. And I think that Sean, I think you often talked about how getting Jimmy off the ball, and maybe Brady as well, right, is like so beneficial for his game. But mostly I'd like to talk about how Duncan, what percentage of Sean and Alf, your support of Duncan really comes down to just being obstinate and trying to argue with the rest of Heat Twitter?
That is 150. That's 150% of my support of Duncan.
Right.
Like I just like to go the other way when it's like when the criticisms just become out of control and just outlandish. I just want to go the other way. Duncan is whatever to me, but it's just fun to just argue with Heat Twitter about these things.
Sean?
And it's unfortunate that, like Heat Twitter, a lot of people don't understand sample sizes. So if you find a certain sample size that shows that Duncan is a 40% shooter and the Heat win most of those games, like that shows his worth. That's why we should keep him around. You just have to find the right sample size. You have to cut out certain games that happen after a certain time zones. And he's probably one of the best shooters in the NBA, to be honest with you.
It is interesting, though, Jimmy, Brady, right? When in the regular season, Jimmy on the ball is not nearly as effective as Jimmy in the playoffs on the ball. Is that true statistically? Because to the eye test, it definitely looks that way.
I mean, yeah, it definitely looks that way. Like, I feel like, especially because the shot making just rises. Like, I feel like that's like the non-X's and O's thing to say is like the eye test of saying guys just step up in the playoffs. But that's Jimmy. Like, Jimmy just totally just takes it to another level of shot making. The jumper wise, it's not as much one-legged jumpers when there's 3 seconds left. It's more set feet going right up. Mm-hmm. The reason I will say, though, that the reason I'm not against the Jimmy at the 4 thing as much as I feel like other people in terms of durability, and I've been saying this a lot, is they switch everything anyway. Like, just because he starts the game on paper next to the starting 4 on the other team does not mean he's going to be guarding the starting 4 on the other team the entire time. There's exceptions like Minnesota, maybe like Boston, but most of the teams don't have a massive starting 4 anyway. Like, I don't feel like the durability there is much of a worry if you're just going that route. I feel like there's more of a worry of maybe a team having a little bit more size and posting them up or posting certain guys up off switches. Like, okay, I can understand that point, but the durability thing, Jimmy's injuries as well have never come off like long, lengthy periods, in my opinion. It comes down off of a layup and he tweaks his ankle the wrong way because he doesn't have it braced up. Like, those things are just kind of happen out of the blue. And then on the Duncan conversation, I'll just add, I don't know if it's a crazy thing to say, but I think if he is on the team, because I have a feeling he probably is, because I don't think they make that minor move because I think they're going to wait it out for the big guy. I think he probably has a role, at least to start the season before the deadline. I think for one, if you want to talk about value and trade value, you try to get him some reps to maybe up his value before the deadline, if you want to look at it from that aspect. And two, if they're leaning offense, just because he had a little bit of a down season does not mean he can't be utilized again. Like, I think there's a way where he plays really well in training camp and he's utilized at least off the bench in certain spots, which is also weird to say because this team is just full of guards. Like, I don't know where guards are being plugged in. The only way I could see them figuring out ways to plug these guards in is moving Jimmy to the 4 in the starting lineup and adding an extra guard in there. Like, that's the one way I could see it being utilized. But you go down the list, if you have Kyle and Tyler starting and Gabe Adipo off the bench, you're still working in Max. You're still working in Duncan. You're still working in Caleb. I know he's now a 4 all of a sudden. I feel like he was a 2 a couple years ago. I don't know how this stuff just changes once they enter like the Miami Heat. But it's going to be interesting how they just kind of mix all these guys in. But I see a way that Duncan's actually utilized if he's on the team.
I just want to point out Duncan Robinson is the same height as Shane Battier, who was a starting power forward on a championship team. Just putting that out there.
Dose, to answer your question, Jimmy Butler in the playoffs as a pick and roll ball handler was 1.09 points per possession. In the regular season, he was 0.92 points per possession as a pick and roll ball handler. The important part there is that in the regular season, it was 22% of his possessions were running that action, and in the playoffs, it went up to 26, and he went from the 70th percentile to the 86th percentile. So not only was he running a lot more, he was much more efficient. So eye test passes, that's 100% correct. Also,
I had it first.
And in
Duncan
the playoffs,
Robinson.
everything's like tighter in the half court. By the way, I just want to add in, like, it's tougher to work, like be good in pick and rolls in the playoffs compared to the regular season.
Duncan Robinson was their most efficient pick and roll ball handler. He was scoring 3 points per possession.
It's coming to fruition. He's about to start at the floor.
Don't ask me how many he ran.
Yeah,
Just
I was
know
about to
that
say how many total possessions.
we don't need to. He
push
ran.
teams on this
He
year.
was a pick and roll ball handler 1.6% of the time. But those 1.6, he was literally getting the maximum amount of points you could.
I mean, technically, he could get fouled and get an and 1-3, but
I don't think that counts in PPP. Does it?
Okay,
I don't know. That's a good.
I might be changing the rules here.
That's
I
a
don't know.
Nicklaus thing. I don't know. We gotta.
Hey, Manny, cue up the G League highlights. Let's get that going. Let's get the narrative going.
The
Those G
dunks.
League highlights.
Yeah.
The slowest
He looks like
crossover
a
I've
future
ever
Hall
seen.
of Famer. Yep.
Listen,
Hey,
the man's bag is extensive.
This really took a turn. This took a turn.
What's better, that Duncan highlight reel or like the Miami Pro Am Bam highlight reel? Because I might lean Duncan.
Duncan was saucing fools. Get out of here! Like,
Yeah, Bam looked slow against.
Bam
you
is
know,
slow, bullying PE teachers. Like, no, I'm talking about Duncan Robinson playing against professionals, saucing dudes on. I mean, ridiculous.
Who was
Deep in the
arguing about
bag.
the Kyle Lowry highlight reel the other day?
at the
Alf was
buffet.
arguing with someone about the Kyle Lowry.
Me and Roy were arguing about it.
Someone gave a long litany of statistics, and he's like, "Oh, it's just a highlight reel."
Any film is a highlight reel when you put it on Twitter, apparently.
Yep.
The drama of Heat Twitter. Look, we got a couple more donations here. Let me pull it up here. Jordan Alfasa donated. So we are now at almost $1,200 on the page. We are going to continue to take those super chats. Oh, we just got one from Miami Heat Beat. You guys want to read that? That's your company. You want to go for it? Let's have G go for it. G, you got a good voice. Go
I don't
for
even
it.
know who did that. This question's for Dose. Where can I find Nikola Jovic at the dairy aisle?
I don't do that. That's Crab. Crab does that. You'd have to download our latest episode from our MySpace page, but you have to be someone with very strong internet because the buffering is quite slow.
Yeah.
Wait, and how broke is Miami Heat Beat that we donated $4.99?
We donated $100, but the thing
Okay,
hasn't showed up on the
Bro,
thing.
that
I
wasn't
wanted it
that
to be
bad.
like a thing, but it says what was the message? It said your bank transfer is in process. You should see the funds withdrawn from your account within 7 days. I did the bank transfer from the page because I didn't want to get up and get my credit card. So I don't know. You'll see it eventually. It was $100.
That's the most Gianni thing ever, right there.
Yeah, no, classic. I can't do shit right. You know.
How come your cable hasn't gone out yet?
How do you know it hasn't? How do you know that I'm not on a hotspot? I was late.
I'm reporting here first that Miami Heat Beat is broke.
We're in shambles, bro. We're hard capped.
Tough times out here in this economy. Sebastian, thanks for your $19.99 dono. On vacation, had to pull up. That's my guy. He lives here in Philly. We used to be almost neighbors down in Manayunk. So good guys. Thank you, Sebastian. We're getting these super chats over to Nicklaus Children's Hospital. So if you want to ask questions, you want to make comments, you want to make fun of us, whatever you want to do, just throw them in the super chat. We'll read them when they pop up there. We always appreciate that. We're going to go for about 30 more minutes, but if you keep super chatting, we'll stay up. We got nothing to do. None of us have lives. We just live in this little podcast world. So,
I'm like, that's a damn lie. I'm going to Better Call Saul.
Getting late.
I know.
I got
so
$4.99
listen.
came out of my paycheck.
That's Hey, more than our paycheck over here, man. So, look, Tony,
you can promise me an appearance fee.
It's tough. Tony, what are you thinking about Victor Oladipo? How do you think his role looks this year? It sounds like Tyler Hero is kind of a shoe-in. If he's back, he's going to be the starting shooting guard. So how do you think Vic's going to look, on that six-man role?
Yeah, that's the question I brought up at the beginning of the show because you're starting to try and find places for all these guards that you have on the roster, And if guys are actually better defensive players, we might have to run a lot of 3-guard this year. So you might have to consider what you do with Vic as a starter or a 6-man. Does he lead that second unit? What's his role? But if the goal is to actually maximize Bam as much as possible, and Jimmy can legitimately space to the break, the Jimmy at the 4 thing works, and then maybe you just run 3-guard. Maybe that's how you start your season and try and figure it out and just start playing rotation science until you can find something that works. But Yeah, he got paid a good chunk of money, man. I think they trust his progression. I think they trust him at least to lead the second unit. That seems like his role right now to me. You just have him as a 6-man off the bench. We'll run it back. I'll put some bets on him for futures as a 6-man of the year, like we did with Tyler last year. Like, why not? Let's do it again. Let's make that possible and happen again in Miami. That same kind of production from a player. But I was thinking about this when you guys were talking about Jimmy at the 4, right? If Kyle can actually space when shooters go under pick and rolls, and Jimmy can bring his shot out to the break, the offense has to run better, right? Like, we have to be a better offense that way than we were constructed last year. It's an open question.
You saying like schematically?
I'm just talking about as far as flow goes, right? Because if you're actually trying to maximize Bam to create as much space for him to be an offensive force as much as possible, like PJ spaced to the corner for half the season, and then defenders would leave him alone, right? Kyle didn't have his shot until we were 3/4 of the way through the year. So if those two guys are spacing the floor and we have a third guard out there, Bam's kind of maximized. This offense might actually run better than it did last year.
I mean, the way you maximize Bam is, get him north-south. But I think one of the adjustments for him was not running as much elbow stuff, right? So they would have him, right? They trigger handoffs or, do the Chris Bosh elbow sets or whatever they want to do. Is more, they made it a point to do more stuff with Tyler on the ball, which I think Tyler earned, by the way. And I don't think Tyler's the pick and roll passer that Jimmy is. So that, Jimmy's diet of pick and rolls went down as Tyler's went up, and Tyler did more stuff. And then Bam played a lot of minutes with Tyler, and Kyle was kind of in and out of the lineup at times. And at times when Bam wasn't healthy, Kyle was, and, it was a little funky for him. But I think that ultimately, he's a rolling big man at heart. That's where he's at his best. And I think that anybody who wants him to dribble from the 3-point line isn't necessarily being fair to his skill set. And he can do some of that, but I think what you want him to, he's a rim running big that, like you said, you get him in space, but it ultimately falls on your ball handlers. And I think in particular, Tyler's improvement at seeing those passing windows a half second early, because, and Brady, I'm sure that you've noticed when you watch, like he notices the pass the second the window closes. And I think that he's gotten a lot better at that. But I think the next progression in his game is making that read before that happens. So he's more in sync, like a guy like, D Wade or Kyle Lowry, that, they kind of know how the play is going to progress, and they're getting in those passing motions, and they're kind of manipulating defenses like that. That's how you maximize Bam, right? Getting the spacing and the pick and roll handler as a deadly passer.
I wanted to add in that you bring up the pick and roll stuff with Tyler. The one downfall of him playing off the bench this season, and Dedmon was great for a lot of the season, but the slower footed rolling big is not as great for him as the kind of quick first step rolling big and Bam. Like the pick and rolls with Tyler and Bam saved basically the first and second round of the playoffs. Like they basically dominated at the end of the Atlanta series. And before Embiid came back in, game 3, the games 1 and 2 were won because of Tyler Bam pick and roll. So now if you're adding him to the starting lineup, more Tyler Bam pick and rolls, less of Tyler having to kind of create that his own shot time and time again, with guys just fully containing him off a Dedmon roll. Like it just changes things altogether. And I think the Bam conversation is going to have to change this season, and it won't. Like it just won't happen. But the fact that if they do go with this exact roster, and as much as we can talk about offensive and maybe things change for him defensively, and I've been saying this, he's going to have so much more on his plate defensively. Like we keep saying the words leading offense. Them leading offense means that Bam has so much more to cover up defensively. So the fact that if we're going to be having the conversation of why is Bam not doing this offensively or taking control, like he's going to have just a full plate on the other end of the floor. And that's not an excuse. I know we're going to hear max player, this, that. He's the second best player on your team of a contender. It's just the point that these aren't things that are going to make it easier for him, I think, in general. Like it's going to come down to natural improvement in aggression. It's always going to come down to aggression. But the defensive stuff is just kind of interesting in that fashion. And the other thing I wanted to throw in, since this is a Spoelstra type show here, we keep talking about Pat Riley and liking big lineups. The most Spoelstra thing to do this season would be roll out a starting lineup of Kyle at the 1, Gabe at the 2, then go Tyler, Jimmy, Bam. That would if there was like a Spo lineup when you mentioned 3-guard lineups, for him to not go big in the front court but go small in the backcourt. Many people may hate that, but it opens up a bench unit for Depot to run with let's just say Max and Caleb and Yurt. Like it's not crazy to say that they would do that. And if you're going to go offense or whatever, at least gives you a little bit more defensively, even if you're lacking a little bit of size. But they're going to try. This is going to be that season when there's not going to be one starting lineup. There's not going to be two. There's not going to be three. There's going to be so many starting lineups throughout the first few months if they do have the same team, because they're just going to try to figure out what works. Like, they figured out what works very, very late in the season last year. Like, they just threw Max in for Duncan and everything just started to click. Sometimes that's all you need. They're going to try and figure it out. But the small lineups like that, I think, are going to be something they actually do lean on.
We give Gianni so much shit about anime figures, and I think Alf has been playing with this Hulk figure more than he's been on the fucking show today.
Oh,
Look at this.
Wow. Where'd you get that?
You guys call me a nerd?
I was just
Listen, I'm open about it. I'm open about it.
I was just demonstrating Duncan's wingspan. Might be the perfect 4 next to Bam. Just saying.
Might be.
Brady, to your point, Tyler plus Bam without Jimmy, 121 offensive rating.
And I think that also, without Jimmy, just means the more spacing for Tyler and Bam, the better. Like, that's just what it is. If you can put as many shooters out there as possible it's not that willingness off the corner to tag down, like, even if it's your best player, but it's Jimmy, they're going to leave that to tag down and it just kind of mess up Bam in the lane. When you take that out of the equation, you could put those two out there. That was the other rotation. We talk about the lineup change for Max for Duncan last season. A big change last season was they changed the rotation. They brought in Tyler earlier, and Jimmy came out, and they allowed Tyler and Bam to get some more run together because it looked so good, and that translated to the playoffs. So I guess that's the plus to the starting lineup. Like, no matter what that fifth guy is, if it's Duncan at the 4, if it's Darius Days at the 4, those two kind of running pick and rolls is the ideal, I guess, thing to look for.
But my question is this: every time we talk about Tyler's best minutes, it's always with Jimmy off the floor. So I just don't understand why there's this push for Tyler in the starting lineup. Like, to me, it's just not. It's not what's best for him or what's best for the team. Hey, Troppy baby,
what's going on?
What's going on with your face?
I finally made a cogent basketball point, and you just jumped in here and ruined it. Like,
You really fucked it up.
I have some actual reporting to do, which is I would like to report that sources say Alex Toledo is devastated by the Choco Taco going away, which we do not have those in Connecticut. So I would be interested in hearing what they are and why you're so devastated.
Did you
also,
have this
I have
first?
the story first. I haven't seen anyone have the story on the internet.
All right, so the Choco Taco, apparently it's been around for 40 years. To me, in my eyes, something that I got as a kid all the time. It's a classic delicacy you get off an ice cream truck in Hialeah. It's a chocolate taco. It's ridiculous, but it's an amazing.
It's ice cream though, right?
Yes, man.
Is it basically an ice cream sandwich and you're just calling it a chocolate taco?
It's called the Choco Taco. You really come
Yeah, but it's like an ice cream sandwich.
Is that a brand, right? Or what brand is it?
Yeah, exactly. Good question, Gian.
Yo,
thank you.
We've joked about this before, Alf, but I know when I worked at Taco Bell, they sold Choco Tacos at Taco Bell. And they had cookies and cream. I never seen cookies and cream anywhere else.
Choco
Taco go to Alf. Alf knows more about this than you.
No, but more importantly, Choco Taco was Royal's nickname in high school.
There he goes.
And we missed a hard out right there. But Alf, thank you for coming in. There's no better way to exit after that. Look, I want to plug these donos, and I think G's going to have to get out of here pretty soon, too. Alex almost just dropped out, too. Everybody's reacting to this. Andy Romero, $9.99 dono. Alf holding that, talking about the doll, look like a voodoo doll. He was showing off the wingspan there. I didn't want to say it. Thank you, Dos. Yep. Major Passons, $19.99 dono. Have we talked about the Ben Simmons combo yet? Keep it up. Great work, guys. No, we're not talking about Ben Simmons because we're talking about basketball, and Ben Simmons doesn't play basketball.
If we want to talk about a courtroom, we could talk about Ben Simmons, but
Wait, what do you mean by that?
His arbitration case.
Okay. Yeah. I thought you were like.
It's literally the only interesting thing that is orbiting Ben Simmons, like in the last couple of years, is this arbitration case. It's funny.
May I leave because I'm getting exhausted?
Yeah. Dose,
I'm gonna go have
you are.
Thank you for being here, man.
I'm gonna go have a glass of chocolate almond nut milk and then go to bed. I'm gonna fire up that first part of that
What
Coach
brand?
Tony interview and doze off.
What brand?
You know what? I don't know what I have in there. I think I have almond breeze.
Oh, almond breeze. Yeah, good choice.
That's a classic. Yeah. All right. Thank you for having me. Everybody make a donation. I'm gonna go make my donation right now.
Thank you, Dose.
Sean, thank
G,
you
are you
so
good,
much
or
for
you need
having-
to say your goodbye?
I do have to go. I have another obligation in a couple minutes, but thank you for having me on. Good to see Alex and Gad and Brady and not Tony, but Sean. By the way, shout out to Fizzy. You know, just Fizzy, like he Twitter legend. It's very sad, and you know, we're celebrating kind of lives today and how to help people live long, beautiful lives and tell people that you love them, hug them, you know, make sure that everyone understands how loved they are and do small things to help each other. You know, we are, I've talked about this on my show a lot and said it at the top of this. We are a community first and foremost. So just remember that when we're arguing about silly things that don't matter, like Duncan Robinson starting at the 4, whatever, you know, we're all human beings and we all deserve love. So thank you, Sean, for having me. I love you, Heat Twitter. I love all of you over here. Shout out to Ethan for having such a great space where people can do things like this. And appreciate y'all for having me.
Thank you, G. Appreciate it. Make sure you guys follow Miami Heat Beat. They do great work over there. It's you know, people try to portray it as some sort of like rivalry or anything like that. We both do good work. Check it out. It's different. You know, everybody does their own thing. So you got your own lane, and yeah, we'll keep it moving. We're going to go for a little bit more. We just got a couple more donos. Darius Jordan, $2. Hashtag save God. Appreciate that. Or actually save Gad. God, Gad,
Save
whatever.
God.
I thought it said God.
That's crazy. That's crazy. That's a wild.
What are we saving him from?
Maybe I looked like I was sleepy. I don't know. I'm tired, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to fire up some Darius Days talk. I've been waiting for this. So
we can. Gab, why don't you read the other dono that just came in from Kai Chin Chisholm right now?
Shout out my guy Kai, who lost to me in fantasy football this year. He said Gad looks like Thad Castle. Shut up, Kai. We don't need that.
So speaking of Darius Days, let's shift it there. He's maybe starting power forward. I mean, is that the direction we're going here? Is that where we're at in this segment?
I don't know about all that. But I actually am like very intrigued by Darius Days, if I can say that much. Like 6'7", like 245 with a 7-foot wingspan. And he just shoots threes, which is kind of crazy because if you watched LSU play over the last few years, like they have the most like 70s, 80s, early 2000s offense that is just absolutely disgusting. They created the monster that is Javonte Smart. I'll let you add connotation to that as you please. But it is not the prettiest offense that Will Wade was running at LSU. And Darius Days was trusted for 3 straight years as the primary floor spacer for that offense, which is kind of wild to me. So I think I see the vision with Darius Days. Kind of you have the 3-point shooting threat. You can kind of mold him into the defender you want him to be and then build out from there. I'm intrigued by Darius Days. I will say that is not a two-way signing that I saw coming, but I don't know how much of an impact he'll have this year, but he's someone that I think actually makes a lot of sense to put in the pipeline.
Anybody else want to jump in on Darius Days, Brady or Alex?
I mean, I'm a fan of Darius Days. Like he's a huge acreage guy, right? And I just think like if you need somebody to replace PJ Tucker, Darius Days is very much built like PJ, right? As far as like, you know, like he's the closest thing to that as far as what he can bring to a roster. Just having him on the pipeline, like Gad said, I just think it makes a lot of sense. He is already, you know, used to playing that role, so it's not much of a transition for him other than obviously the speed, the skill, the NBA. That's a different story. But as far as like the actual role he's going to be playing is very similar to what he played in college. And, you know, that's just one where I feel like, you know, in college it's not the focus isn't to get threes up as much. And he was still able to fire off 5 or more attempts every year, have a pretty good percentages above 35, was productive in summer league. And I just think the Heat promoting him right off the bat over everybody as a two-way guy, except Marcus Garrett, just tells you how high they are on him right now. I mean, I don't know that he's going to be, you know, somebody that's getting consistent playing time. If the roster as it stands, were to start right now, like I think he would have a shot at it, right? I think if he really
At
impresses
starting?
in training camp, no, probably not at starting. Although Spo has, he started.
That would be a wild curveball starting on day one.
But him being in the rotation, in the rotation, I don't think is out of the question at this point. Depending on how he looks in training camp compared to other guys in the room, like Highsmith compared to Jovic, because that's the guys that they have right now, right? And so I'm not expecting much from him, but I like him. I like him a lot for a two-way guy.
To Gad's point on that, he might be a little more ready coming right out. LSU runs a triple switch defense there. I mean, those guys are conditioned and ready to play a style of basketball that we can play defensively. And all he has to do on the other end is come down and shoot the freaking basketball. Like, he might have a role. I could see him having a rotational spot this year if Highsmith doesn't work out. But I'm intrigued with Highsmith defensively.
Highsmith will work out.
I think he will too, bro. That second unit with Highsmith and Oladipo.
Second unit.
Oh,
first unit.
Ooh.
Respect Haywood Highsmith. It's that simple. Listen, I watched him grab rebounds in Summer League, and we all know Summer League directly translates to being a starter in the NBA.
Yep.
And he was starting on the Miami Pro League team for Taylor Sports Group that featured Darius Garland, Dennis Smith Jr., Haywood Highsmith, Obi Toppin, and Bam. He's already starting in the front court with Bam. Read the tea leaves, people. Read the tea leaves. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Respect Haywood.
He's one of the best players in the Delaware Blue Coats history.
All 5 of them.
That's true.
He really is, I think, something he really is something defensively, though. But I think the difference I think he's definitely higher than Darius Days at this stage, like in terms of readiness and everything. But the thing I wanted to mention about Darius Days is, like, Gad mentioned the 245. Like, the fact that he's like an undersized 4, but he's also 245. Like, that's when Alex's acreage comes into play, because, like, that really is something to do there. Like, the fact that you're 6'7", but you're a post-up threat, like, in some ways, like, then he's I don't know. There's like some skeptical ways of him defensively I've seen, like, but the fact that he's moving enough at this stage at 245, like, that's when he take you to the next level defensively. Like, that's where it's kind of intriguing. And I don't think it's a right now thing for him, but I think it's later down the line. And every time they have 2 ways to utilize him. So he'll probably be utilized at some point. I just don't know how it'll be. And the fact you mentioned the above the break threes, like, those aren't like catch and shoot above the break threes, by the way. Like, those are like pull up off the dribble above the break threes. And he was doing that at San Antonio Summer League. Like, he was doing that against pretty decent talent as well, not just at LSU. But when it comes to Highsmith, like, he's more of the molding out. Like, he mentioned molding after PJ Tucker. Like, that's what he should be doing, because that's his game, in my opinion. Like, kind of being the corner shooter that can be utilized by also sizing up and sizing down defensively, ideally. I think you're more willing to size down with him, because I think he could stay on the perimeter a little bit more than you feel comfortable with him guarding centers. But he's just a guy that can also shoot above the break. Like, he's a guy that can move around there. He's the prototypical 3-and-D player. He's not going to be your starting 4, even though he's up for the job, I guess, in training camp. He'll have to compete for it. Like, it's not out of the question. Is it crazy to say he fits more on paper than Caleb Martin at the starting 4? Like, I don't think that's crazy to say. I think
Brady, I agree. That's why I'm not fully pushing this agenda, but I'm kind of like elbowing it a little bit right now, because it makes the most sense to me. What makes the most sense, honestly, is Yurt starting, but I don't think that's the card that Spo wants to pull. But listen, Haywood fits, and he actually looks like he's been hitting the gym. Like, he looks way stronger than he did just 4 or 5 months ago. So I don't know if they gave him some compound V. If you guys watch the boys, I don't know, but whatever they did with it, it worked. Like, he looks way stronger. So we'll see what happens with Haywood, but I'm excited for him. I think he's actually like a 3-and-D wing at the NBA level, but he might be pushed to kind of playing the 4 for the Heat.
You mentioned the Yurt. I didn't want to stray off too far, but you mentioned the Yurt thing, and something I've been adding in is that if you're going to start Yurt at the 5, like, all of last season when he was utilized, and he played really well for a stretch, he cannot be playing in the Dwayne Dedmon role if he's playing next to Van. Like, that just can't be what he was in, which was what he was doing last season. He has to be playing, I know this name came up earlier in the show, he needs to be playing in more of a Myers role, where he's kind of sliding up above the break and willing to take those threes where it's respectable at some level, while also mixing in way more post game than what he was doing. But I'm just saying, in terms of pure role, like there has to be some type of above the break shooting or willingness to shoot the three, which he did a little bit in summer league, but he did not do. They didn't utilize him in that way. They didn't ask him to do that at any point in his role last season.
And I'll confirm what Gad said. Like seeing him up close, Haywood Highsmith was huge. Like his chest, his arms, his shoulders. I mean, I didn't see him up close during the season, being here in Philly, not seeing them very often, but like he's big. They definitely had him consciously getting himself bigger in his upper body. Alex, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the same thing. Like he definitely saw the hole at the forward. It's like let me put some weight on and really give myself a shot here.
Mm-hmm.
I would not be surprised if he's the starting four, right? And I think it's a crazy point that we're at. No shot at Highsmith or any of the other guys there, because I think they have options theoretically, right? Like I said on 5 on the floor, they got multiple guys in the room who can play the position. It's just not ideal if you're trying to compete with the best teams. I just think in general, this whole market, I forgot who said it earlier on the stream, is so constipated. And I think it's such a great word because everything, including all the lower level moves, are just on hold right now, right? So even if the Heat wanted to make one of those moves, which we know they're not going to, because they're not going to take themselves out of the whale hunting game, I don't know how much they could get across, because it feels like everything is on hold for Durant right now. So the messaging that has already come out as far as the Heat kind of being good enough to run it back with what they have right now and not worrying too much about making another move, whether it's with Duncan or not. You know, if this Durant thing doesn't work out, I don't know. It's making me think that it really is Durant or nothing at this point. Or maybe that's just me buying into what they're saying too much, right? Maybe they're bluffing, and if it doesn't work, they have a move that they already have lined up and would pull the trigger on. You know, let's say Durant got traded to another team officially. I wouldn't be surprised of that either. But Yurt starting, Highsmith starting. We're here. We're really here.
You know, speaking of constipation, what doesn't cause that is almond milk. And Dose did just make his donation, $105. We appreciate that, Dose, for throwing that out there. Got us over $1,200, almost $1,300 on this stream. Plus, adding in, we have a couple more donations coming from Coach Tony. Ethan's going to match it with 5 reasons. Plus the super chats, we got to be somewhere around, I would say, close to $2,000. Got to be. So we're going to start to wrap things up. We appreciate you guys. Manny has a video that we're going to show. Obviously, why we were here tonight was for the Spoelstras. Sebastian Spoelstra, you know, overcoming that childhood cancer, battling that over at Nicklaus Children's Hospital. So if Manny has the video ready, whenever you got it, you can go ahead and play it. Great video there. That was from Nikki Spoelstra's social media. So we wanted to put that out there. I want to plug it one more time before we close out. I did just put the link in the chat. It's in the description of the YouTube video also. That's where you can donate directly to the Nicklaus Children's Hospital. All of those super chats that you guys threw in there tonight are much appreciated. Those will all also go to that foundation. I want to thank the people that came in here real quick. Alex, Tony, Manny for producing, Coach Fiorentino, Alana, Timmy, Brian, Alf, G, Courtney. Who am I forgetting? Dose. I almost forgot about Dose. Gad, Brady. If I forgot anybody, Ethan, everybody that came in. It's greatly appreciated. Everybody's time, you know, is valuable. One more thing before we go. We had one more person that sponsored, and that's Miami Hops. I don't know if, Manny, you have that tweet ready. If we can throw that up there. Anyone that made a donation, you are entered to win some of these Miami Hops glasses. He has his, I think it's at Miami Hops. We'll get that tweet up there in just a second. But he puts out glasses, Dolphins, Heat. They're very cool. I just got a couple pair. One of them is the Ray Allen shot. The other one is Jimmy Butler. He's got a new one coming out with Dwayne Wade. Here it comes.
Really nice.
So those are the ones I got. You know, you can drink beer in them, whatever you want to drink in them. Hopefully Biscayne Bay Brew is what you put in there. Great glasses, high quality. Great prices, I thought, and the shipping, honestly, it was very quick. It got to me within a couple of days. So check those out. Anybody that donated, you're entered to win those glasses that you see on the screen. So we'll let you know the winner of that. I believe on Friday is when we're going to pull that. So you still have a couple more days that you can donate using the link that's in the description. That's also in the chat. Appreciate you guys. You can keep on donating throughout the week. And, we'll be back with more streams and all that stuff that's not as serious as this. We'll have you covered all week. So thanks, guys, and we'll close it out.